Chapter 1305, Shadows in a Dream, 70 points. In the end, Cyber Elf Alpha's score broke the historical record of all past winners of the Red Heart Queen's Masquerade, second only to Cassina the Battle God, who just performed the Battle God's dance. Looking at the scores of the 3 rounds of competition, it is not surprising that this 1-point difference can be caught up at any time. Everything was exactly as Cyber Elf Alpha had calculated. This was the perfect performance she tailored for herself by combining the scoring trends of all the previous judges from the earlier rounds. Alpha, you're amazing. The Golden Crow Princess curiously circled around Cyber Elf Alpha, occasionally sniffing her scent. In theory, the Golden Crow Princess is slightly older than Cyber Elf Alpha. However, because she hasn't been officially born into the world yet, her temperament is even younger than Alpha's. From Cyber Elf Alpha, the Golden Crow Princess caught a hint of a scent similar to the Queen Mother of the West, and couldn't help but come closer. 70 points. I was really underestimated. Flora clenched her little hand, then lifted her pointed chin, her gaze becoming even more determined. It's time to show her true abilities. In the past, she was always a strong contender for the Red Heart Queen's Masquerade, but this time it's different. In her heart, there was a burning flame. It was a love fire that no one could lose, making their souls speak. At this point, only the last 2 contestants of the first round of the Red Heart Queen's Masquerade had yet to appear. Lilibet, the guardian of the Sky Tower, came to chase after Shea Longness. Great Witch Flora, known as the strongest contestant in the history of the Red Heart Queen's Masquerade. Only this time, even if I face the god-slaying Sky Sword, I absolutely won't lose. Flora stared fiercely at Lilibet, who remained expressionless from the beginning. She had a strong feeling that this could be her strongest opponent, possibly even unmatched. That calm expression, constantly giving a tremendous sense of oppression, as if victory was assured from the very beginning. Flora had a chance to claim the ultimate prize in the god-slaying Sky Sword's upheaval competition since she ranked in the top 3 among all the legend-ranked contestants in Endless God's domain. The reason she is not first is because there is a multi-headed dragon who is even better at escaping and surviving. The unlucky demon dragon has successfully escaped multiple times from a group that includes goddesses, fantasy creatures, and thousands of hero-ranked individuals. It escaped all the way into the unknown star domain area where there are no star bridges. The beam of light shook, and this time it fell on an opponent that Flora paid extra attention to. Elegantly brushing away the crumbs from her lips, Lilibet coldly watched Shea Longness and vanished from the dining table. Splash! Splash! On the golden sand beach, gentle waves crashed against tiny golden pebbles. A huge door stood between the sea and the sky. Lilibet stood in front of the door, and her azure Excalibur shimmered with a glowing steel blue light as usual. Yunshi has dreamt of this scenery countless times. On the golden beach, whether they were princesses or princes, everyone remained silent. Time seemed to stand still here, like a beautiful painting. Lilibet had no intention of speaking. She wasn't even a participant in this year's Red Heart Queen's Masquerade. Her only goal in coming here was to hunt down Shea Longness, who had stolen a precious item. Even though she had been specially invited by Red Heart Queen Ada to join the ball, Lilibet still maintained her own pace. Unlike the passionate god-slaying Sky Sword Senior who eagerly attended the dance, Lilibet had absolutely no interest in the ball. Even now, on this stage that showcased the elegance of a lady, she still remained indifferent, like an icy mountain, keeping others at a distance. There was no need for any performances. For Lilibet, it was just a waste of time. This golden beach and the gateway that connected the sea and the sky, that was Lilibet's work and mission. Yunshi stared dumbfounded at Lilibet, not far away. Actually, he has many things he wants to say to Lilibet. Why have you been here, protecting this door? Is it a promise with someone, or is it a vow you made? Do you remember, we have met here many times before. I know, you probably don't remember, or maybe it's just a dream for me. Lilibet, actually. In many dreams, Yunshi fantasized about meeting Lilibet, even though he knew it would end with his own death. He looked forward to this brief and magical time together. Since the first time he had this dream, he became obsessed with the girl who always appeared on this golden beach. No matter where he entered this dream, he would always come to this beach and meet her. In her dreams, she always looked powerful and beautiful, making people's hearts race. Her pretty curls, the braids behind her back, and the shiny blue sword she wielded, they all made her figure so enchanting as she fought and defeated enemies. Hero. Legend. Myth. The more times they met, the more they noticed the shining aspects of her character. Even if she killed them 100 or 1,000 times, that heart-pounding feeling never faded. She was the most magnificent color in Yunshi's dreams, the sweetest longing, and the most captivating scenery. Every time Yunshi had this dream, it was a marvelous journey. In the real world, he was just an ordinary baker, but through this dream, he touched a world he would never be able to enter. The immortal ghost. The magical sword that cuts all the ghosts. The ancient and mysterious door, with unknown destination. For young Yunshi, it was an irresistible temptation. In the end, he got lost in his dreams multiple times, not knowing which world was the real one. He wandered here as an immortal wandering soul. He lived a plain and ordinary life in the small town. The sword that divides these two worlds, the sword that separates reality from dreams. When he died in his dreams, he would wake up in the real world and lose almost all the memories of that dream, only left with a feeling of sadness and loss. For a long time, when he woke up like this, he would become silent and not know what happened to him. It wasn't until he met Hua Hua that he felt like he saw a part of his dream reflecting on her, which made him involuntarily get closer to her and his heart beat faster. Chapter 1306, The Treasure of Soul Gold Sand. Tiny waves crashed against the golden coastline. The sand wasn't just debris but soul gold sand, each grain containing pure soul power. From the past until now, countless wandering souls have been killed by Lilibet's sacred sword on this beach. After their obsession completely dissipated, fragments of their souls were scattered on the originally desolate shoreline. Since the twilight age of gods, Lilibet has repeated this mission countless times. Guarding the entrance to the Sky Tower, Lilibet exterminates all immortal wandering souls who approach without permission, never allowing any impure spirits to pollute the Sky Tower. Among the 7 towers, only the Sky Tower receives this special treatment because it is unique and inherently alluring to the immortal impure ones. These immortal wandering souls that can never be completely eradicated appear day after day outside the Sky Tower, emerging from an unseen dark world and advancing towards the Soul Sea where the Sky Tower is located. Lilibet is the strongest barrier of the Sky Tower, an eternal guardian. Since the twilight age of the gods, she has fulfilled her duty to eliminate all these immortal wandering souls in front of the tower. The appearance of immortal wandering souls is random. Sometimes, there are only a few stray cats in a day, while other times there may be an army of more than 5 digits. Among them, occasionally there are some extremely special individuals who possess the power that even Lilibet needs to fight seriously. Perhaps, they are the souls of certain fallen heroes after death, and they even carry some god weapons fused with their souls. However, no matter how glorious their achievements were during their lifetime, no matter how many people praised them, and even if their souls were tainted and turned into wandering souls, they still possess great power, but when they encounter Lilibet, there is only one path, death. She will never show mercy to any wandering soul, nor will she allow these souls to come near the sacred Sky Tower. The Sky Tower stands in the ocean of reality and illusion, and that coastline represents the last dam of the soul's ocean. The color of this dam was originally an ambiguous gray, representing the indistinct color of the soul's chaos. Now, a thick layer of precious soul gold sand was spread on the embankment. It is the great achievement of Lilibet, who has slain countless lost souls over thousands of years, and it is also a priceless treasure trove. These soul gold sand themselves are one of the favorite treasures of nightmare sovereigns and ancient abyss gods. They possess properties between reality and illusion, making them catalysts for various forbidden arts. The value of these soul gold sand cannot be described merely as priceless, especially to the powerful beings of the abyss and nightmare factions, who cherish them as much as world tree leaves. The leaves of the fairy clan's world tree radiate the essence of life. The gravel washed up by the soul sea carries the colors of souls. These are eternal treasures that can be exchanged for items of the highest level, such as the legend ranked, in the endless god's domain. They serve as the highest form of currency. However, the creation of soul gold sand is even rarer than that of world tree leaves, so it only rarely finds its way into circulation within the endless god's domain. The golden beach beneath Lilibet's feet can be considered the largest source of soul gold sand in the entire endless god's domain, possibly without a peer. Not to mention, within this thick layer of soul gold sand, there are numerous prototypes of god weapons buried, all remnants left behind by the lost souls slain by Lilibet. To put it simply, Lilibet is one of the richest people in endless god's domain and is the owner of this beach. In the empty space, many nightmare sovereigns couldn't help but salivate when they saw the golden beach beneath Lilibet's feet. Gulp. Honk. Haw. Lilibet may not possess the qualities of a lady, but for the 12 nightmare sovereigns, this scenery of golden sand is the ultimate delicious feast in the world. The texture and shape of this beach. It's absolutely fantastic, the best of the best. Wait. I think I see fragments of a dragon's soul in this sand. That's right, it's the gravel of a fallen demigod. The sword of dark souls. Humans who are alive cannot understand the tempting effect of this perfect soul gold sand on the nightmare sovereign, the temptation of the abyssal old gods. Most of the terrifying beings of the legend ranked can collect soul gold sand, which is mostly inferior products obtained after using certain bloody forbidden techniques. When eaten, it really tastes like a mixture of sand. And the soul gold sand here in Lilibet has been washed by the spiritual soul sea for tens of millions of years, with no trace of impurities, a perfect product. Among them are gravel formed by powerful living beings' soul fragments such as dragons, demons, and fallen demigods. The origin of some gravel was almost about to enter the threshold of the legend ranked before their death, just one step away from transcending the mortal world and reaching the realm of eternity. Some are simply crystallizations formed by the fragments of fallen deities. For the rulers of Nightmare World, this is truly the most beautiful scenery in the world. Unfortunately, they cannot enter here. The location of this golden beach is a mystery, and it is said that only certain people who have obtained permission from Lilibet can step into this beach. Nightmare sovereigns have completely no access to it. Even in the Nightmare World, the existence of this soul gold sand beach is just a rumor, and no nightmare sovereign has really seen it. Now, they have actually seen it. The golden beach is even more beautiful and amazing than the legends say, like a paradise for nightmare sovereigns. Every grain of golden soul sand here is a treasure. These are the highest quality soul gold sand without any impurities, and there are even some super high-ranking sand grains that even nightmare sovereigns can't get their hands on. This is a treasure trove that can make any nightmare sovereign or ancient god's heart flutter. Each of the god weapons inside, even in their soul form, possesses ancient legends and even their own mythical stories. If they didn't know clearly that this is just the reflected inner landscape of Lilibet, created by Red Heart Queen Ada's special ability, the 12 nightmare sovereigns would have been tempted to rob it. Lady, oh lady! To marry such a lady would be a great fortune. This time it was such a treat for the eyes. This beach is even more magical than the legends say, Lilibet really does have such a treasure trove. Ah, my inspiration has arrived, after countless years of watching, after countless years of cleansing, that enchanting shoreline, how magnificent, how delicious, gulp. Without a doubt, the things Lilibet brought out truly satisfied all 12 nightmare sovereigns. Chapter 1307, A Familiar Feeling. This is outrageous. Isn't this cheating? When Flora saw that stretch of soul gold sand coastline, she knew something was amiss. This is completely tailored to their tastes. As long as it's a nightmare sovereign, they can't resist the essence of soul gold sand. Nightmare World is essentially a rift world located between reality and illusion, and the nature of soul gold sand is similar as well, which makes it incredibly attractive to nightmare sovereigns. Just like how almost all humans cannot resist the temptation of sweets, every creature in Nightmare World, from the weakest dream monster to the highest nightmare sovereign, is completely defenseless against soul gold sand. Lilibet took out the soul gold sand coastline, and it wasn't something vague or unreal, but a real and tangible thing. Flora didn't even need to look, but she knew that more than one nightmare sovereign was drooling over that gold coastline. Even she had to admit that when it came to the amount of soul gold sand, Lilibet was the richest person in Endless God's domain. As a dusk witch who smuggled goods all throughout Endless God's domain, evading taxes and daring to smuggle any forbidden items, she had also come into contact with this contraband, soul gold sand. She had some reserves of soul gold sand in her possession, used for trading with the Abyss and Nightmare World. It was something that nightmare sovereigns and Abyss evil gods loved even more than world tree leaves. However, compared to Lilibet's entire coastline of soul gold sand, her few pockets of soul gold sand were not worth mentioning at all. Enemy. A formidable enemy. Archenemy. Great Witch Flora's intuition was correct. Among the participants of Red Heart Queen's masquerade, she was the only one who had her gaze completely fixed on the faceless god, imagining him as her ideal lover. As a result, with her budding love, she could sense Lilibet's threat towards her more than anyone else. Different, completely different. The seemingly expressionless face of the faceless god only showed a clear change when he looked at the suddenly intruding Lilibet. It wasn't a change in facial expression, as the face of the faceless god never changes, but rather subtle movements in different parts of his body. Even though there were no expressions on his face, being constantly watched by Lilibet was an unusual action, a warning sign for the love-struck Great Witch Flora. Just like on the present-day Gold Coast, to others it seemed like Lilibet and the faceless god were silently exchanging glances, as if nothing had happened. Are you kidding? This is clearly a display of affection. They didn't need words, their understanding came naturally. Flora panicked and realized that even without saying a word, Lilibet the guarding sky sword had stolen the spotlight in this lady's stage. Her level of threat may be even higher than everyone else combined. It must be said that Flora's romantic intuition was very accurate. Yunshi's heart was indeed beating faster and faster. It's different, really different. Of course, it's different because standing before Yunshi now is the real Lilibet, the dream lover he had imagined countless times in his dreams. Splash! Splash! Lilibet didn't need to do anything, she just stood there, without even drawing her azure Excalibur in front of her, causing enough harm to Yunshi. It was a sword called First Love Dream Lover. This sword continuously hit the faceless god, and then hints appeared on the head of the faceless god. Yunshi's liking increased by 1. Yunshi's liking increased by 1. Yunshi's liking increased by 1. There's nothing to be done, it's a privilege. Lilibet doesn't need to do anything special, for Yunshi, she is a fantasy that embodies the most beautiful things in the world. Click. After silence lasting for almost several minutes, the faceless god took a step forward. On the beach covered with soul gold sand, there was a delicate footprint left behind. This is the only participant on the Red Heart Queen's masquerade stage who can make the faceless god take a step forward voluntarily. For Yunxi, Lilibet is so different. Lilibet still keeps her distance from others. For her, this is just going through the motions. As someone who doesn't care about achieving the legend-ranked food, she is more concerned about when this Red Heart Queen's masquerade will end, and then she will immediately start hunting Shay Alongness again. She must retrieve what she stole from the Sky Tower. For this, she even used her Guardian of the Sky Tower's power, summoning fantasy species from Kunlun God's domain to temporarily guard the Sky Tower in her place. Luckily, this is not the active period of immortal wandering souls recently. At most, only a few dozen wandering spirits appear in a day. Any fantasy species can easily guard the doors of the Sky Tower. In order to retrieve what Shay Alongness stole, Lilibet has made up her mind to chase her to the end of the Endless God's domain. No, Senior. When Flora saw the faceless god take that step forward voluntarily, her heart was covered with intense pain. Originally, love is not only about beautiful things, but can also make people worried, sad, and even feel panicked and uneasy. Senior, don't be fooled by her appearance. Most of the Sky Swords are heartless creatures, daring to defy all rules in the world with their own will. Some of the Sky Swords are even scarier than the ancient gods in the abyss. They are definitely not a good choice to be a bride. Even though Lilibet is one of the few well-reputed ancient Sky Swords, she is also a sword wielder who has experienced the Twilight War of the gods. Look at the soul gold sand beneath her feet. It has ended the despair of countless wandering souls. In any case, Senior, please don't choose her. There are other choices here who have bigger chests, are more outstanding, and also very wealthy. Please consider them carefully. Who are you? When Lilibet saw the faceless god approaching her, she blinked and casually drew her azure Excalibur in front of her. Don't misunderstand, she didn't have any hostile intentions towards the faceless god she had just met. It's just that, when she saw this person approaching, for some reason her hand felt a little itchy, so she instinctively drew her sword. After pulling out her sword, even Lilibet herself was a little surprised. She wasn't the type to draw her sky sword casually, only using it when needed to maintain order and deliver a sacred judgment upon the opponent. For example, when slaying wandering spirits, when slaying wandering spirits, when slaying wandering spirits. Well, it must be an illusion. Why does it seem like the opponent is very easy to strike? Chapter 1308, Flora's determination. Seeing Lilibet's seemingly eager and spirited sword, Yunxi reluctantly halted his steps forward. He had a feeling that if he were to approach, that familiar azure Excalibur might really strike down. Similar scenes had repeated on this gold coastline thousands of times. Well, there's no need to doubt that among the thick layer of soul gold sand covering the coastline, there are many grains contributed by Yunxi. As for how many, Yunxi himself is also unsure. After all, the number of times he has been killed by Lilibet is simply too many. It's strange that even though Lilibet has been killed many times, he doesn't feel any anger towards her. Instead, he feels more and more attracted to her. It's better to say that with each death, the bond between him and Lilibet becomes stronger and inseparable. Even without saying anything, just standing in front of Lilibet makes Yunxi happy. Time passes by second, and suddenly the entire gold coastline becomes blurry. Lilibet puts azure Excalibur back, finally ending this comedy. Maybe a score of 0. Last time, God-slaying Sky Sword, who attended this ball, also received this score. As a senior at the ball, she showed her support to Lilibet. It's impossible to get a high score, it's something that can't be achieved in this lifetime. If there's something you want, just go ahead and steal it. Lilibet doesn't care about the score of this Red Heart Queen's masquerade, and she doesn't need any additional attributes from the legend-ranked cuisine. A score of 0 is just fine. However, this is only what Lilibet thought. In reality, most of the 12 Nightmare Sovereigns were reluctant to end Lilibet's performance and drooled over it. It was only because the performance time was up that they had to let her leave the stage. Otherwise, the scenery of the Gold Coastline, the great Nightmare Sovereigns would never get tired of it even after 10,000 years. Soul gold sand covered the entire coastline. Special soul gold sand could be seen everywhere, with god weapons of the soul hidden within the soul gold sand. For the Nightmare Sovereigns, this was a magnificent feast. If Lilibet opened the Gold Coastline for ticket sales and allowed nightmare creatures to enter with tickets, they would line up for days and nights. If she was willing to sell this soul gold sand, a large group of Nightmare Sovereigns would wave world tree leaves and scream with madness, "Buy! Buy! Buy!" After wiping away their own saliva, the 12 Nightmare Sovereigns happily started rating Lilibet's performance. Lady, a true lady. She owned countless treasures that Nightmare Sovereigns dreamed of, even the ground beneath her feet was buried with god weapons of the soul type. With a graceful demeanor, she stepped on the soul gold sand as if it were ordinary sand. She was a super lady. With her elegant disregard for soul gold sand, who else but her could be called a lady? In contrast to Cassina the battle god's beauty, Lilibet displayed a different kind of ladylike virtue. She deserves a high score. I'm truly amazed, it's a feast for the eyes. This view alone is worth 8 points. 7 points, I don't want to give a higher score because I'm afraid she'll become too proud. 8 points, I really want to see it again. Why does the performance have a time limit? 8. 7 points, just as excellent a lady as Cassina the battle god. There isn't a score below 7 points, there are even 2 scores of 8 points. It completely rivals the grandeur of Cassina the battle god's performance earlier. This is the charm of soul gold sand, a treasure that even the high and mighty Nightmare Sovereigns would become intoxicated by. Following the rules, after removing the highest and lowest scores, the score is incredibly the same as Cassina the battle god. 71 points. Another highest score appeared. This edition of the Red Heart Queen's Masquerade can be called the Carnival of the Ladies from Endless God's Domain. Ladies from different gods' domains showcased different styles of ladylike charm. Surprisingly, there were 2 breaking record scores above 70 points. It is not easy to receive such an outstanding score of 7 from the extremely picky Nightmare Sovereign. These judges are monsters who grade according to their own standards and don't even care about the goddess. In the past editions of the Red Heart Queen's Masquerade, there were only a few who could score above 60 points, and most of them were the exceptionally talented Great Witch Flora, who struck a blow to the consciousness of numerous female deities. Without absolute strength like the god-slaying Sky Sword, participants with extremely low scores will mostly encounter punishments from the terrifying power of nightmares and pay a heavy price as losers. A score of 70 represents the unanimous recognition of the 12 Nightmare Sovereigns. This lady possesses the qualifications to sweep the entire Endless God's domain, even stirring the hearts of the ancient gods in the abyss. This evaluation can be said to be as high as it can be, and Cassina the battle god and Lilibet the guarding sky sword are fully deserving of this evaluation. Indeed, you are my greatest enemy, Lilibet. Great Witch Flora gritted her teeth as she watched Lilibet, who had a calm expression, continuing to cut the bread with a knife and fork. Whether it's a 0 or a perfect score, it doesn't matter to Lilibet. She is indifferent to anything outside of fulfilling her mission. It's her nature as a guardian. Do you think you've won, Lilibet? Flora took a deep breath. Surrendering like this is not the style of a dusk witch. Even when faced with the god-slaying Sky Sword, she bravely defeated that unbeatable monster on the stage, forcing them to give up in the end. Moreover, this time, she has an absolute reason not to lose. She is different from the others, she truly chose to express her admiration for her seniors on this stage. This is her best answer sheet for the love lessons taught by her seniors. What is the feeling of liking? She had no knowledge of it in the past. It was her senior who made her understand the beauty of love and what it truly means to be moved. And just like that, she realized for the first time that love wasn't all sunshine and roses. It could also bring heartache, unease, and fear. Flora, believe in yourself, you can do it. From childhood to adulthood, as long as you give your all, you can accomplish anything perfectly. You possess the highest talent as the Great Witch. You are the pride of the witch god's domain. You are even able to contain the destructive power of the Great Crow that has destroyed countless stars, and possess the ability to travel through dimensions as the Dusk Witch. Today is the day you step onto the most important battlefield of your life. The word lose doesn't exist in your dictionary. In Flora's eyes, the shadow of the Black Great Crow appeared, opening her dimensional space treasure trove to select her battle equipment and tools. Chapter 1309, The Treasure Trove of the Dusk Witch. As the ruler of Endless God's domain, the Dusk Witch is notorious for smuggling prohibited goods without paying any taxes, which infuriates the rulers of countless other gods' domains. No amount of wealth can describe the richness of her treasure trove. Throughout centuries of smuggling, her treasure trove has collected numerous treasures, many of which are unique specialties from certain gods' domains. These black market goods can only be traded in Flora's domain, with no other channels available. With the help of this channel, Flora's ability to make money surpasses that of most large-scale guilds in Endless God's domain. These guilds have privileged trade permits on the Star Bridge and are overseen by legend-ranked beings. Their influence extends across multiple gods' domains. Flora's profits from smuggling alone can rival those of these guilds, amounting to millions or even billions. This clearly demonstrates the insane profitability of smuggling prohibited goods. As the Witch of the Gods' domain, Flora is also a top-tier dimensional magic user. Apart from a few territories controlled by the creator beings such as Pantheon, Dragon Emperor Palace, and Kunlun, there is no god's domain where Flora doesn't have a smuggling channel. As a result, the treasures collected in her treasure trove come from various powers. The ones specially reserved by Flora herself are the finest of the fine, the kind that money can't buy. First, we have perfume. Flora picked up a small crystal bottle. This was one of her secrets to victory in the past Red Heart Queen's masquerades. This is no ordinary perfume. It contains the essence of the golden orchid from the fairy clan, the blood of Abyss Succubus, and is blessed with the divine power of a goddess of love. Finally, it is bestowed with special dreamlike abilities by Red Heart Queen Ada. In Flora's treasure trove, there was only one small bottle of perfume called Golden Love. It was concocted by a legendary alchemist warlock and said to be a secret weapon against a powerful giant from the legend ranked. The recipe was incredibly complex, and only one perfect bottle was produced in the entire Endless God's domain. It was then divided into several smaller bottles. The price of this small bottle in Flora's hand could buy a small god's domain, but it was priceless and not available for sale. Due to some materials being extinct and some being used in the past, only half of the remaining golden love in the entire Endless God's domain is now in Flora's possession. It's less than 2/3 of this small bottle she holds in her palm. Flora obtained this small bottle at an astronomical cost, traded for it from the collection of an alchemy master. In previous Red Heart Queen's balls, she had encountered opponents several times, and she always emerged victorious by using this secret weapon. She laughed last. But now, this precious golden love didn't give Flora the same confidence as before. Her opponent this time was incredibly powerful. Putting a drop of golden love on her chest and feeling the enchanting scent naturally emanating from it, Flora felt slightly reassured. Keep choosing. There is no perfume more advanced than golden love, but there are still clothes and jewelry. This is a lady's war, she must win this battle. This black crow robe won't do, even though it can show off her great body curves, it is too dark. Change. Treasure search, find the clothing with the highest charm value. 3 different styles of decorations appeared in front of Flora, all of them are equipment that meets her requirements. The first one is a golden dress in a sacred style, adorned with light golden lace on the edges, with a big bow decoration on the chest, and even holy dust floating around the hem of the dress. Angel's Tribute, made by a certain light deity of the twilight age of the gods, this battle armor is handcrafted for their loved one using fabric woven with the divine property. It comes with a holy halo, angel's protection, and angel's feathers, and can transform into an angel for battle when necessary. It is an excellent outfit that combines sacred art and combat power. The second item was much bolder in style compared to the first. It had a lot of open areas on the chest, and there were small devil wings on the back as decoration. Every part of it was designed to be sexy and suggestive, with almost the entire back being empty. The Whisper of a Little Devil, a dark attribute evening gown woven from the hair of a succubus from the abyss. It was once used by an ancient god in the abyss to tempt heroes. It comes with a succubus aura, seductive power, and a Whisper of the Little Devil. The user must have succubus bloodline to be able to use it. The third item was designed in a unique burning style, resembling a deep red evening glow. It was designed by the Dragon Clan and had a crystal emblem on the chest that looked like blood. The Dragon Clan's wedding gown is said to be personally designed by dragon god Asha. It has the power of a dragon and comes with red flaming high heels and a queen's crown. It is a bridal gown that showcases the strong side of a woman. All 3 dresses met Flora's requirements and were full of charm. They corresponded to the 3 traits of divine purity, dark enchantment, and burning passion. The Flora of the past would definitely choose a dress in the dark enchantment style, which is fitting for her identity as the Great Witch. Witches are inherently mysterious and dark females. Most witches master magic of the mysterious type, and a white magic witch who specializes in healing and support is as rare as a giant panda. Among all the great witches in the witch god's domain, there is only one oddball who walks this path. The title of Dusk Witch represents Flora's traits. Skilled in dimensional shuttle, space cutting, and even harboring the great crow that has destroyed many worlds, she has never been associated with holy or enthusiasm. However, this time, her gaze fell on the Dragon Clan's characteristic costume, purely based on instinct. Unlike the dark enchantment-style demon dress, it seems that the red bride dress matches the senior's silver style better, who seems to not dislike enthusiastic and proactive women. As for the golden angel outfit, it really doesn't suit her, as it is kept as a reserve for merchandise. Alright, it's you. Perfume and dress selection complete, next is jewelry. She had never used this trump card at the previous Red Queen's dance, but now it's time to bring it out. The forbidden item among forbidden items, it can be said that it is a cursed demonic jewelry. Kara's tears, cursed jewelry created from the tears left behind by a certain great witch predecessor who was hurt by love. Why doesn't the person I like me? Why is it that the first time I have something I want, it is destined to be out of reach for me? I hate this unfair world. I curse everything. Even if I am in a coffin, I want to shout out, like me. Trait, a curse used on people by a god weapon. Effect, anyone who gazes at Kara's tears will uncontrollably start liking her. Even if, it is a tragic fate. Chapter 13:10, The Cursed Necklace. After smuggling for so many years, trading countless forbidden items, Flora's wealth may not compare to Lilibet's soul gold sand beach, which was obtained through cheating, but when it comes to the richness of her collection, she is definitely not inferior to anyone. The Golden Love Potion, there are only a few small bottles left in the entire Endless God's domain, and half of the inventory is currently in her possession. Angel Praise, Little Devil Whisper, Dragon Tribe bride's dress, all are top-notch treasures that cannot be bought with World Tree leaves. Black Witch Kara's Suicide Bond necklace is unique in the entire Endless Gods domain. Any of these three treasures is an extremely rare gem, their value is beyond description, and they are among the few highly priced items in Flora's treasure trove. For Flora, these are her weapons, the most powerful equipment. Others come to Red Heart Queen's ball for the legend-ranked delicacies, but Flora attends the ball not only for those rare legend-ranked delicacies, but also to defeat powerful opponents. For this, she prepared many hidden cards. The Golden Love perfume, used to charm god-level giants, represents the purity of angels, the temptation of devils, and the passion of the Dragon Tribe. The Cursed Great Witch jewelry is her trump card. In the past, even when facing the strongest opponent, she only used one of these weapons and easily defeated her opponent. But this time, she is truly giving it her all, leaving no effort behind. Put the Golden Love on her chest, change the magical raven cloak to a passionate dragon red dress, put on flaming high heels, and wear the dragon princess crown. Flora at this moment looks like a princess who has stepped out of a fairy tale. Especially the necklace on her chest, each drop shines like a charming tear. It was a lonely life, a life without chasing the obsession left by the beloved Great Witch Kara. It was also a curse. Anyone who gazes at this necklace will involuntarily fall in love with the witch who wears it. This is a bondage, and also a curse, originating from the hatred of Great Witch Kara. Of course, it is not an indiscriminate curse, but a precise curse that targets individuals. It is the strongest curse made from the tears of Black Witch Kara before she vanished. Its curse power once caused terrifying disasters in Endless Gods domain and separated more than one couple. As the price for releasing the curse, the user themselves will also bear relative misfortune. Most of the time, they will die within 3 months after use. Even if I can only be loved by you for 3 months, I am willing. I just hope you can pay more attention to me, even if it's only for 3 months, I don't ask for forever. Why did you choose her? Did I do something wrong? Maybe this is fate, and I will not regret it. If you choose to use this necklace, there is no turning back, so please be prepared. These are the last words left by the witch who used this cursed necklace out of desperation in Kara necklace, and also a warning for those who come after. The source of the curse's power comes from the hatred of the Great Witch Kara in the past, and even the witches of the legend ranked are affected by it. Flora never thought that she would actually need to use this necklace. It was originally an item for sale in her treasure trove, and she has sold it more than once. Every witch who bought it was willing to give up everything to gain the right to use it, yes, only the right to use, not ownership. Because of the special nature of this necklace of the legend ranked, even witches with a high resistance to curses cannot withstand the hatred from the Great Witch Kara. Once used, they will undoubtedly die within 3 months. When the witch who used it died, Flora would go and retrieve the necklace. Strangely, when Flora retrieved the necklace, she often discovered a shocking fact. Most of the men who were enchanted and married the witches who used the Kara necklace cried uncontrollably, and some even committed suicide for love. It was as if they were already fond of buying the Kara necklace from the witches, and the necklace seemed to serve as a triggering medium. Many people were already walking down the red carpet of their weddings before being struck by the curse's power of the necklace, only to be stolen by the witch wearing it. It was only after the witch who used the necklace's magic died that these people finally realized and regretted who their true love was. Unfortunately, everything was too late. Differences in family, race, and even gender became insignificant in the face of life and death. Fortunately, Flora would not make this mistake. Because she is the Dusk Witch, a legendary figure at the top of Witch God's domain, on the same level as the Black Witch Kara, who created this cursed necklace. She is not good at curses related to bonds, but as the Dark Crow, a creature that has destroyed many worlds, resides within her body, she has special skills to avoid harm. Even if it is a death curse from the Great Witch Kara, she can transfer most of it to the Great Crow as a substitute, reducing the side effects to about 1/10, and she can even specify the type of misfortune. Using such a powerful curse that can be considered suicidal, even Flora cannot avoid paying a price. So, the 1/10 she sacrifices is 1/10 of her own treasures, used to offset her own death fate. Using wealth to offset the concept of death is one of Flora's biggest secrets, and it is also the reason why she works so hard to collect wealth and demands high wealth from her future spouse. Why would the Dusk Witch, who is used to smuggling prohibited items without paying a single penny in taxes, do such an irrational thing? Is it worthwhile to exchange 1/10 of the entire treasure trove for a curse of absolute bonding? In terms of value, it is simply not profitable, it's a huge loss. However, Flora insists on doing this, it is her pride as the Great Witch. This is the only time she will perform as a lady, and she absolutely doesn't want to lose to anyone, especially that arrogant Lilibet. In this world, there are more people who have money than just you. Moreover, she also has her own unique advantages. Because she used a forbidden technique to bind herself with the Red Heart Queen's masquerade, she will definitely receive an invitation from Ada every time. Not only that, no matter which year's Red Heart Queen's masquerade she participates in, she is guaranteed to be the grand finale. The true protagonist always appears at the end. "Senior, I'm here." She finished changing clothes in the shadow cast by the raven, and her prominent chest almost burst out of her dress. Below her teardrop necklace is a deep abyss. Flora has prepared everything. Take a deep breath, and then take the most important step of her life. Flora arrived on the scene. Chapter 13:11, Flora's Stage, This. Yunshi looked around, surprised by the sudden change in scenery. Different, unlike all the previous legends. The scenery that left the deepest impression on Flora's heart was not beautiful at all. Without the tranquility of Shealongness's Misty Lake, the mystery of Cassina the Battle God's Time River, or the grandeur of Cyber Elf Alpha and the Golden Crow Princess creating a world. Flora's world was dirty, decaying, and heading towards destruction. This was nothing like a lady's stage, but rather a terrifying scenery like the end of the world. The ground was filled with destroyed building ruins, not a single building was intact. Dilapidated windmills, grinding mills shattered into pieces, bridges split in the middle, castles cut in half. There were no bodies or blood, only a road with many cracks and signs that couldn't be read clearly, showing evidence of a past civilization. No matter how many times you look at it, this scenery is always so captivating. Truly, it is Flora, perfectly representing the end of the nightmare. Even in this destroyed world, it is still so beautiful. Unlike Cyber Elf Alpha's big data algorithm, Flora knew from the beginning what kind of world Nightmare sovereigns would like. Distorted beings born in the nightmare world, they like beautiful and pure ladies, but don't mistake them for having any kind-heartedness. Their favorite scenery is the destruction of the world. Nightmares themselves are landscapes woven by countless intelligent beings, and nightmare sovereigns always prefer destruction over order. To be precise, what nightmare sovereigns like the most is the brilliance within destruction, like a volcano erupting before doomsday, presenting a dangerous and peculiar beauty. Dusk Witch Flora is an extraordinary beauty that perfectly matches Nightmare Sovereign's aesthetic. This world is a reflection of 1,000 years ago, the world that Flora has experienced and completely changed her life. Before this, Flora was not a Dusk Witch and was not part of the chaotic neutral camp. What changed everything was here, Flora's former hometown, the world visited by the Great Crow. The Great Crow is now residing within Flora, merging with her soul as a battle pet. Long ago, there was a huge black crow known as the Disaster Bird that destroyed world after world and devoured countless intelligent creatures as the natural disaster monster. Flora's hometown, which appears before Yunshi at this moment, is one of those worlds and the final one visited by the Great Crow. The Great Crow has the power to travel through dimensional worlds, randomly destroying any world it encounters. Whether known to the endless god's domain or unknown, the presence of the Great Crow inevitably leads to ultimate destruction. Flora's hometown, the city where Flora resides, is the final world visited by the Great Crow and is part of the witch god's domain. When the Great Crow descended, Flora was not yet a great witch. She watched helplessly as the black magical crow spread its wings and covered the entire sky. 7 days and 7 nights passed, and all the humans in this small world of the god's domain died. Great Crow indiscriminately sucked the life force out of everyone, devoured their flesh and blood, and sent out puppets made from its feathers to exterminate all resistance. It was not out of hatred for the intelligent beings of this world, but because Great Crow itself was this kind of creature. Worlds have lifespans, and when their lifespan ends, they naturally face death. Sometimes, the beings who reside in the world use forbidden powers to prolong its lifespan, attempting to preserve civilization and time. And there are some people who bind their lives to the world, seeking a kind of unstable immortality. The world where Flora lived used a forbidden technique from the witch god's domain, prolonging the world's life and creating incredibly dreadful weapons. Those weapons attracted residents from the nightmare world, Great Crow, the nightmare creatures that can traverse dimensions. Great Crow was born from the nightmares of countless intelligent beings. Since ancient times, crows have been seen as a sign of bad luck because whenever crows appear, there will be dead people, corpses, and rotten things. Over time, in the nightmare world, which is rooted in the souls of wise beings, a black, gigantic crow was born. When people first observed this creature, they called it the Great Crow. When the Great Crow appears, it signifies the destruction of a world. Usually, the world targeted is a very old world that once had a splendid civilization. A newly formed world will not attract the Great Crow. Only those ancient worlds that have used forbidden powers to prolong their lifespan will be sought out by the Great Crow and destroyed. Without any human emotions, the Great Crow is just like those crows that can sense the smell of dead bodies. It appears naturally in worlds where the lifespan has reached its limit but has been unnaturally extended using forbidden arts. Then, there is indiscriminate destruction. The Great Crow will devour everything alive in this world without hesitation, bringing an end that should have come long ago. Flora's hometown experienced the death announcement from the Great Crow in this way. On the first day of the Great Crow's arrival, the world's population decreased by half. Just with a single cry from the Great Crow, half of the humans in the world turned to ashes. On the second day, all the water in streams and lakes turned into poisonous substances. People could only quench their thirst with water created by witches' magic. On the third day, all the crops in the soil withered and humans lost their place to grow food. On the fourth day, a big flood came, and 1/3 of the land was completely submerged, and black feathers started falling. On the fifth day, the witches' magic began to dry up, and there was only one city left in the whole world, struggling desperately. On the sixth day, the most powerful witches and their disciples launched a counterattack against Great Crow, and together they invaded the body of Great Crow, which covered the sky. On the seventh day, no one returned, and the world fell into silence. Everything came to an end. No one survived, except for one person. Her name was Flora, the only witch who managed to enter Great Crow's heart, the last hope of the world. However, she couldn't save her homeland. That war was the witch's final victory, a victory achieved by only one person. Chapter 13:12, Dusk Witch. Perhaps Great Crow could not imagine that the witches would use that tactic in the end. Or rather, from the very beginning, this city was a bait, a trap carefully prepared for Great Crow. Everything was for one person, Flora. This great witch candidate with the highest talent, hailing from the remote area of witch god's domain, from the small god's domain. In order for her to step into the legend ranked and become a true great witch, her teacher had long ago started preparing a plan, but Flora herself was unaware of this plan. The whole world was prepared as a sacrifice for Great Crow, to summon this natural disaster monster with dimensional shuttle power. The witches who discovered Great Crow's true nature used certain methods, in order to have one more great witch in which God's domain. They abandoned this God's domain and began to lay their foundations hundreds of years ago. The forbidden technique hidden in Flora's hometown is a fusion-type spell, requiring the sacrifice of millions of humans and more than 36 witches in order to capture Great Crow. This would make this natural disaster monster with dimensional shuttle power become a battle pet exclusive to a witch with great witch potential. At the end of the plan, the witch who proposed the plan, Flora's teacher, and all her disciples, gave themselves as a sacrifice to Great Crow and activated the forbidden magic. At the cost of countless creatures and endless treasures in God's domain, Great Crow was captured. The only survivor merged with Great Crow's heart and became the Great Witch with the power of dimensional shuttle. That day, the 7-day-long darkness came to an end. The only remaining witch found herself in a ruined world colored by dusk. There was no one else alive except for her. The witch who plotted this trap, Flora's teacher and disciples, died. Those who were caught in this world vanished into thin air. The only one left was Flora, wearing a magical robe stained with countless blood, its original colors no longer visible. On that day, Flora lost everything. The only thing left by her teacher was a farewell letter. Flora, don't feel sad. This is a plan we've been carrying out for hundreds of years, for the birth of a great witch. We have been waiting for the arrival of the Great Crow, waiting for someone with enough talent to become a great witch. And finally, you were chosen. You truly are my most outstanding disciple. Live proudly as a great witch, destined to become a legend. This is the last thing we can do for you. Why? When Flora saw the farewell letter, she finally knew the truth behind everything. Why were many young people from God's domain recruited to other places for various reasons? Why are the teacher and the disciples not surprised by the arrival of the Great Crow and have prepared enough supplies for the disaster? Unfortunately, all the preparations were in vain. The destructive power of the Great Crow was unstoppable. By the 6th day, all humans except for the witch had died. Afterwards, only the remaining witches together attacked the Great Crow's body and designated her to cast the final sealing spell. Even Flora, who had the highest witch talent, found the complexity of that spell overwhelming. As she cast this super complicated spell, undoubtedly some kind of forbidden spell, one by one, the disciples who had studied with her under the teacher sacrificed themselves and were devoured by the Great Crow. Finally, even her teacher, the elderly witch who had lived for 800 years, could not escape and became nourishment for the Great Crow. Realizing that she had become completely alone, Flora, with tears in her eyes, completed the final spell and then lost consciousness. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself standing on a desolate land. Even though only 7 days and nights had passed, the familiar world she knew had completely disappeared. The ruined scenery that appeared in front of Yunshi was the hometown that Flora could never forget. On that day, the witch Flora disappeared. Standing on this ruined land was the great witch Flora, who had merged with the Great Crow and obtained the power of the dimensional shuttle. In her eyes, reflected the scenery of the ruins under the twilight's radiance, so familiar yet so unfamiliar. Dusk Witch Flora became her witch name, in memory of the day the world ended, the colors she last saw. The scenery of dusk. In a gloomy world, Flora stood out, wearing a dragon clan's red bridal gown, stepping on fiery high heels, and wearing a magnificent crown. Behind her, a giant crow was unfurling its wings, emitting contented and joyful cries. It was calamity, it was destruction, it was the true nature of the Great Crow. Bathed in the Great Crow's aura of death, Flora displayed a breathtaking beauty. That was the scene at the Red Heart Queen's masquerade, where nightmare sovereign judges who had impressed countless judges couldn't help but applaud and cheer. Moreover, today's Flora is more shining and magnificent than any previous occasion. Because the attire she wore this time was not a usual black raven robe, but a vibrant red gown. Her elevated chest and long, perfect legs appeared even more snowy and captivating against the flame-like high heels. With perfect body curves and confident gaze, even the sword scar on her cheek emitted a mysterious and unpredictable aura. The dragon-style bridal gown personally designed by dragon god Asha was a perfect match for Flora's flawless figure, especially the revealing part on the chest, which made Yunshi's heart beat faster. Standing amidst the ruins, in a world completely devastated, only Flora possessed perfect colors, and it was an incredibly passionate shade of red. This surpassed the artistic sense of all the other participants. It was a proof of Flora's numerous battles. The mere intertwining of colors alone was an art, a talent innate to Flora. Indeed, Flora was not just a natural candidate for the Great Witch, but also had extraordinary artistic talent, making her a true lady among ladies. Most of the other contestants showed their true colors, but Flora not only performed in her true colors but also used contrasts of environment and colors to the extreme. And this was not yet the limit. Saw law. Flora exclaimed as she held back the envy of countless female deities toward her magnificent chest. It was awe-inspiring, shaking the world and touching the souls with an enchanting melody. The final song of the world. Chapter 1313, The Witch's Mission, Part 1, Yunshi had never heard such a singing voice before. In the colors of dusk, a girl wearing a burning red wedding gown, stepping on flame-like high heels, and wearing a magnificent crown. There was no trace of humanity left, only ruins filled with darkness, decay, and the stench of death. The extremely strong contrast, along with the girl's song that moves the rhythm of the world, created an incredible beauty. Compared to the magnificent creation of the sun and the arrangement of planets in a quantum computer group, Flora displayed a more heartfelt and real tragedy. Every building, every detail, and even every crack on the ground in this world in ruins exist concretely, representing the last scenery of Flora's homeland in her heart. The war was a victory for the witches, as Great Crow was bound within Flora and gave birth to the Dusk Witch. However, the cost of this victory was so huge. The devastated world before her eyes is the ruins left by the war, where Flora's past homeland can never be returned to. Flora used to think of herself as someone who wouldn't care about the scenery around her. Because she possessed the highest level of witch talent, everyone believed she would become a great witch in the future, including herself. Through diligent studying, delving into the mysteries of magic, and constantly improving her magical power, she not only surpassed all her peers but also surpassed the hundreds of years-old elder witches one by one. This is a genius, the genius among geniuses. Her talent has great potential to become a great witch. Flora, you will be the pride of everyone. Since childhood, Flora has lived amidst these praises and jealous glances. And she has never let her teachers down, especially in forbidden spells, particularly those related to spatial abilities. She has surpassed her own teachers in mastery. If everything goes according to plan, in a few centuries, she may accumulate enough knowledge and mystery to start working towards achieving the legend ranked in the field. It is a barrier that all wise beings, apart from the fantasy species favored by heaven and earth, find difficult to overcome. The step from hero ranked to the legend ranked is not simply about accumulating magic or increasing life points. Every legend ranked is a living legend, a celebrated miracle. Throughout the history of the witch god's domain, many witches with exceptional talent have appeared, but only a few have truly become great witches. Every advancement to the legend ranked is unique and there is no common path for it in the whole endless god's domain. Finding one's own path is the first step towards the legend ranked, and it is a foundation. Just this step alone can defeat 99% of the hero-ranked strong individuals and make those at the 6th rank peak of hero rank despair. After finding the suitable path, one must walk it all the way to the end and see that door. After reaching the end of each path, different doors will appear. Is it about seeking the strongest power, crushing everything with immense physical strength? Is it about mastering divine skills through constant battles? Is it about choosing to merge with a certain god weapon, abandoning one's own body, and becoming a weapon? Each door corresponds to different choices of paths, and there is no fixed way to open them. Constantly honing one's body, ultimately surpassing the limits of the flesh, is possible. Join Battle God's Grand Martial Arts Tournament, defeat all opponents, achieve an unbeatable legend, possible. Transform your body into a sword, let the sword be your spirit, achieve eternity, also possible. The legend ranked corresponds to a rule, a field, that surpasses the hero rank and symbolizes immortality. So, the birth of a legend ranked, even for which God's domain, which has a long history and profound heritage, is an extraordinary event. The birth of any legend ranked is an exceptional miracle for the entire endless God's domain. Flora has planned her own path, the path of dimension which, and at a young age, she has already begun to try to touch the door to the dimensional shuttle route. Why did she choose this path? Maybe it was the dimensional rift she accidentally touched that sparked her interest in the ever-changing world of endless God's domain. In the current endless God's domain, the explored areas of known civilizations are only a small part, with more than 99% of the area still completely unknown. The spell called Dimensional Shuttle is the best way to explore the unknown star domain magic. Even if the star domain's information is unknown, as long as there is no powerful creator rank field, it is possible to travel and observe. When faced with a formidable opponent, one can also quickly retreat. Flora's wish is to fully understand the forbidden spell of Dimensional Shuttle and be able to see the unseen scenery, and write a witch's diary that can be recorded in the history of the endless God's domain. Therefore, she wants to become a great witch and possess the eternal concept. Without reaching this level, one is not qualified to leave their own God's domain and explore the endless starry sea. Currently, over 90% of the territory of the endless God's domain is explored and expanded by strong individuals of the legend ranked. The vastness of the starry sky is such that even with eternal and immortal legend ranked status, it would take millions of years to explore just a small part. Just establishing a star bridge system that covers the entire endless God's domain is already the limit of the civilization system of the current endless God's domain. Flora yearns to do something that nobody else can do, to draw more star maps than any legend ranked, which is why she chose the path of a dimension witch. At that time, Flora was innocent and kind, just like a pure witch on a blank canvas. Her teacher knew about her wish, and they had a meaningful conversation. Flora, do you want to have the power of the dimensional shuttle? It's not something that a witch with your abilities can control. Even a witch of the legend ranked probably can't do such a thing. The constitution required to travel between dimensions doesn't exist in the known witch bloodlines. Flora at that time responded to her teacher like this: then, I will be the first witch who can dimensional shuttle. No matter if it takes 1,000 years or 10,000 years, I will complete this task. I believe that I can achieve all of this, no matter the cost. Flora still remembers, to this day, the smile on her teacher's face when she heard her response, a smile filled with anticipation, joy, and determination. Very well, this is my Flora. I will help make your wish come true. Chapter 13-14, The Witch's Mission, Part 2. Long after, Flora always regretted not telling the truth that day. She wasn't a child who liked to lie, but only that one time, she should have lied and not given the correct answer to her teacher. Flora, you are my most outstanding student, without a doubt. Honestly, tell me, how confident are you in opening the door to the dimensional shuttle? Probably, it will take over 300 years, with a probability of 1/3. This is definitely a very, very high number, and it's where Flora's confidence and pride lie. Spending 300 years to push her own abilities to the limit, allowing overflowing magic to distort parts of space, and then exploring the true mysteries of the dimensional realm. A rare treasure that can help someone reach the legend ranked of heroes, even if it only increases the probability by 1%, can still cause a war among heroes. Unfortunately, Flora chose a path that had never existed before, known as the Dimension Witch. There are only a few rule-based treasures related to space in the entire Endless Gods domain, and they are all in the hands of powerful beings at the legend ranked. For a mere hero-ranked witch, it's a foolish dream to obtain a treasure of this level. Even in the Witch God's domain, there is no god weapon related to space available. 1/3. Flora, you never cease to amaze me. Her teacher looked at her with a gaze that Flora couldn't understand at the time. If there was a way to make this probability 100%. Teacher, that's impossible, isn't it? There's no method that guarantees a 100% chance of becoming a legend-ranked Great Witch. Flora thought her teacher was being too optimistic. Well, normally, such a method doesn't exist. Even if it requires sacrificing the lives of millions, tens of dozens of witches, if it can't be done, it can't be done. The door to the legend ranked won't open for those without potential. Only those who can cross the door with their own strength can see it. Flora, you are right. This method is impossible to succeed. Even though he said that, the teacher's eyes were burning when he looked at Flora. Yes, even for the witches in the Witch God's domain, this method is not valid. Because they don't have the qualification to touch that door. The door of the dimensional shuttle has only been truly understood and touched by Flora so far. She confidently said that with 300 years of magical accumulation, she had a 1/3 chance of opening that door. Only the highest talent can achieve such a miracle. But it's still not enough. A 1/3 chance is not reliable at all. No, even with a 50% chance, it's still not enough. The step to becoming a legend is reaching the hero rank. Once you cross it, you become eternal. If you fail, you won't even have a chance to regret. While ordinary people can try multiple times to reach the hero rank, there is a risk of death when attempting to break through to the legend ranked. Every attempt to reach the legend ranked is a gamble that consumes your own potential for life. The probability of success on the first attempt is undoubtedly the highest. If you fail the attempt, you will suffer almost irreparable damage, causing a decrease in potential and a significant increase in difficulty for the next attempt. The highest number of successful attempts to reach the legend ranked, as recorded in the history of Endless Gods domain, is 4 times. In reality, most hero-ranked individuals who reach the peak of the 6th rank won't even have the opportunity to attempt the legend ranked. Only those who find the correct path and reach the end, touching their own gate, are qualified to break through the barrier between the hero rank and the legend ranked. Every time you challenge yourself, it's like taking a gamble and embarking on an adventure. Those who can reach the hero rank and touch the gate at the end are the geniuses of their tribe, possessing different miracles and extraordinary talents. Even so, no one dares to guarantee that they will successfully reach the legend ranked. Accumulate your own strength and reach your own limits. Increase your fame and accomplish great adventures and achievements, becoming a hero in the hearts of countless people. Everything is just for that step towards reaching the legend ranked, for a little more opportunity. Anything that can increase this probability, whether it's natural treasures or divine weapons, can cause chaos and bloodshed. For Flora, a 1/3 chance is a highly worthwhile probability. Even if she fails, she won't give up and will continue to try a second or third time. However, Flora's teacher doesn't think the same way. Since Flora has such talent and potential, why take a risk with a 1/3 probability? This realm of God's domain has already exhausted all its potential, and Flora's birth can be said to be the last seed of hope nurtured by this world. She will become the legend of this god's domain, the greatest pride. At that moment, Flora's teacher made a decision that would cause the death of a world and the sacrifice of dozens of witches, including herself. Flora is a honest and good child, more dedicated to the magic field than anyone else, and full of self-confidence. That's great, that's how it should be. Your life has just begun, you have an unlimited future ahead of you. Your brilliance is destined not to be limited to this god's domain, which has already begun its decline. Let your homeland and us witches, who are destined to have no achievements in life due to insufficient talent, clear the way for you. Even if it means sacrificing millions or tens of millions of lives, it's all worth it. Including all of us, everyone is just like grains of sand in time, but you will be a witch who surpasses time. On that day, Flora told the teacher the answer, starting a plan that had already begun a long time ago. It was a rare observation and tracking plan of a certain disaster beast in the history of the entire witch god's domain. This plan was originally an experiment conducted by the legendary great witches out of curiosity towards this disaster beast. The witchcraft that Flora studied, Dimensional Shuttle, incomplete version, was actually a byproduct of the great witch's observation of the disaster bird, Great Crow. Whether it was by chance or the inevitable hand of fate, Flora didn't know about this, but her teacher sensed the scent of causality. This child was destined to become a great witch that would shock the entire endless god's domain. What was originally just an observation planned to lure out the great witch, changed because of Flora. Several great witches and Flora's teacher joined forces to set up a trap for the Great Crow. Chapter 13-15, The Witch's Mission, Part 3, Using the Creatures of a World as Bait, Sacrificing the Lives of Everyone to Lure the Great Crow, who can freely travel between dimensions. They first discovered the existence of the Great Crow and set up similar traps with the Great Witches in multiple worlds, working together to restrain the Great Crow lured by the death energy of the world outside the void. Flora's teacher and disciples were the final sacrifices, tasked with sealing the Great Crow for just 1 second. Yes, only 1 second. Several great witches from the witch god's domain, along with the sacrifice of many outstanding witches from an entire world, all for the precious 1 second. Even with the intervention of 3 legend-ranked great witches, they could only achieve this much. The Great Crow is a creature capable of freely traveling through dimensions, a natural disaster monster born from the nightmare world, an immortal calamity. It doesn't truly exist in the concepts of life and death, unable to be killed or destroyed. It lacks self-awareness and is more like an embodiment of a certain concept. To capture such a great crow and turn it into a battle pet is an unprecedented plan, even for the witch god's domain. If it wasn't for Flora's sudden appearance, the chance of this plan succeeding would be less than 1 in a billion. The 3 great witches who have been tracking Great Crow haven't found anyone whose field is related to dimensions. The prerequisite for merging with Great Crow is to touch the power of dimensions. The rank of dimension which has never existed in the history of witch god's domain. Flora came up with this rank for herself. Most of the existing dimensional magic in witch god's domain has significant flaws as they are based on the records left behind by the great witches who observed Great Crow's travels through dimensions. Who would have thought that a talented witch like Flora would be able to develop partial dimensional magic from those incomplete records and touch that door? Flora, who is honest, didn't hide her progress in magic. In fact, her progress in studying dimensional magic has long surpassed her teacher by several levels. In witch god's domain, there is no longer anyone who can be her teacher in dimensional magic. She has already reached the pinnacle of dimensional magic in witch god's domain and is the most outstanding spatial witch in the history of witch god's domain. It was Flora's impressive performance that caught the attention of her teacher and also piqued the interest of the 3 great witches. Because of Flora's arrival, a plan that was originally impossible became possible. Perhaps she was born to be a witch. 1/3 chance is indeed too low. So, the plan was able to be carried out. That day was a festival in the small god's domain, where people danced around a bonfire, celebrating the harvest while holding hands. Witch god's domain, which has always been an important part of the endless god's domain, is still prosperous and abundant even in Flora's remote hometown of the small god's domain. The population of the entire god's domain is about 30 million, divided into mortals, wilderness, and the higher regions where witches reside, just like most other gods' domains. However, unlike the distinct divisions of the Sky Sword god's domain with its handle, blade, and tip, which god's domain is mostly divided into circular sectors. Only the area where mortals live is located in the outer ring of the circular sectors. A wild area with various monsters and dangerous creatures smells, located in the middle of the ring area. The upper area where witches and apprentice witches live, located in the inner ring of the circle. The three rings are clearly divided, representing a common social hierarchy in Endless God's domain. Flora's hometown, where over 29 million mortals reside, is located in the outer ring. Unknown numbers of monsters and creatures multiply and thrive in the middle ring, providing magical materials for the witches. Around 100,000 people serve the witches and apprentice witches, settling in the upper area. There are only dozens of true witches and around a few hundred apprentice witches, all disciples of the same lineage. Flora's teacher, a senior witch who has reached the end of her witching journey and lived for 800 years, is the master of this god's domain. This god's domain has a very ancient history and was already a part of this large god's domain when which god's domain was established. The people on this land are used to the rule of the witches. Even if a girl with the potential to become an apprentice witch comes from a family, they will eagerly send her to the upper area where the witches live. Most men work as knights and guards, striving to become the witches' subordinates. Until that day, disaster arrived. Great Crow is a calamitous creature without human emotions, a true natural disaster. With its black wings, it descended, smelling the decay of the power of God's domain, long dead. Darkness covered the entire God's domain. In 6 days, except for the last few witches, there were no living beings left in God's domain. Flora, together with her teacher, invaded the body of Great Crow. Because of the colossal size of Great Crow, which presented a world-ending form, it engulfed the whole of God's domain, rendering any magic attack from the outside ineffective. Under the guidance of her teacher, Flora used her partially developed dimensional cutting magic to forcefully tear a hole in Great Crow's body and rushed inside along with her teacher's other disciples. For Great Crow, who had no concept of life and death, having its body pierced was a very rare event. Combined with the full restraint from 3 external great witches, Flora's teacher and disciples managed to reach its heart for the first time. It was a magnificent scene, with all the last surviving witches in God's domain, wearing robes and pointed witch hats, joining forces to surround Great Crow's heart. Since there was no concept of life and death, the heart was not a vital point for Great Crow. It was merely the core that powered the dimensional shuttle. Perhaps, to Great Crow, it seemed like a group of insignificant ants gathering around it that could be crushed easily. But for the last surviving witches in God's domain, this was their only chance. However, it was not their chance, but Flora's chance. Flora, you are the only witch with the power of dimensions. The final sealing task belongs to no one but you. Although the world is about to be destroyed, there may still be small miracles. You must save this world. At that time, Flora's teacher lied to her. Miracles to save the world never existed from the beginning. Because this world existed long ago as a sacrifice to Great Crow. Chapter 13:16, 1 second now, the time has come. Among us, only Flora can do that thing. Flora, you are the hope of all of us. You can save the world. Everyone, are you ready? Sacrifice your life for Flora's sake. As they penetrated Great Crow's body and finally reached the heart, Flora's teacher began to execute the final step of their plan. When they realized their imminent death, Flora's disciples didn't panic as she had imagined. It seemed they had already known about it. Surprisingly, they were all just ordinary girls, just like her. Witches are not monsters, they simply possess the natural talent to become witches. Among thousands of apprentice witches, they stand out and are recognized by superior witches as exceptional representatives. Casting forbidden spells, one by one, the sacrificing witches left behind their last words for Flora. Flora, when the world is rebuilt, please engrave these words on my tombstone. Here lies a future great witch named Sue. To be honest, I never really thought about a grand future. I've successfully become a witch, so why not just wait for death? Sob. Flora, remember to bring my favorite bread when you visit my grave. On my coffin, please carve beautiful lilies, Flora. Flora, it's a pity that we won't see you become a great witch. You are the best witch among us. Flora, did you know that all 3 of my former lovers changed their minds after seeing you? I hate you so much. Why don't I have your talent? Goodbye, Flora. Everyone has a mission to fulfill, and I guess mine is now to become a great witch. No doubt about it, Flora. Why didn't they notice? None of them asked her to save the world. It's because they already knew that this world was beyond saving. Only a world of death can bring forth the Great Crow. What they hoped for was a plan that must be completed, even if it meant sacrificing their own lives. It was the birth of a great witch. The existence of the Great Witch is a long-standing legend for the witch god's domain. Every great witch is like a goddess, idol, representing the highest fantasy of the witch god's domain in the minds of countless witches. Even a great witch who has fallen into darkness still has countless followers. In order for a great witch to be born, they make the choice to sacrifice their own lives, just like Flora's teacher. Those last words are only meant for Flora, because she is special, a witch who surpasses them all, the only one with the hope of becoming a great witch. Flora herself is unaware, she thinks she is unnoticed, but she has already caught the attention of countless people. There are countless nobles and knights willing to sacrifice their lives for her, to protect her. Even among the witches of the same sex, she shines the brightest like a star. Her talent is exceptional, and her learning ability surpasses all other witches. She is like the main character in a story. Even without doing anything, she still shines brightly, and the witches who study under the same teacher are also infatuated with her. The name Flora has already spread throughout the entire witch god's domain, considered to be the most likely genius to become the next great witch. So, she doesn't have to do anything, the teacher does everything for her, protecting her from the wind and rain. She never lacks the materials she needs for experiments, no matter how precious they are. Sometimes, she becomes interested in a food from a remote place called God's Domain, and the teacher and her disciples will do everything they can to buy that kind of food for her. She thinks she is very ordinary, just a witch who focuses on studying. This doesn't exist. Photos of her and the things she has used have long become popular goods in witch God's domain. It is said that in order to compete for the clothes she no longer needs, Flora's disciples have even dueled with each other more than once. It was truly a comedy full of Yuri color, meaning a story involving romantic relationships between women. When the final moment arrived, these witches who didn't look the part because they had once fought with Flora, each expressed their feelings to her. Flora, live freely. Flora, I like you the most. Flora, take our share and shock the whole witch god's domain. At that time, Flora somewhat realized some strange things. It seemed like everyone thought they could become a great witch. By the time the last witch, who was the 800-year-old teacher Flora, began to perform forbidden spells, Flora still believed she could save the world. In front of her, the intricate and mysterious unknown forbidden spells had reached the final stage. As long as she had 10 seconds, she would succeed. Flora, my disciple, I hope you won't hate me. My last words, kept in my tower. Flora. Goodbye. At that time, Flora saw the teacher's disappearing figure and felt very sad for the first time. But she still held on to hope that she could save the world, and finish reciting the final spell. At the cost of all the witches' lives, Great Crow's heart was surrounded by a strange blood color, which was the life essence of everyone Flora knew. Seal. Flora spoke the final secret code and challenged the unbeatable Great Crow. In the void, the three great witches heard that voice, signaling the start of the final stage of their plan. Countless black rays of light pierced through Great Crow's body. Thousands of little puppets ran through Great Crow's blood vessels. Ashen pages of a book glued to Great Crow's feathers one by one. In just a moment, Great Crow's power had a blank period. In a split second, Great Crow's heart burst open, shattered by the different powers of the three legendary Great Witches. In just 2 seconds, the Great Crow's heart will regenerate, and the Great Crow cannot be killed because it doesn't have the concept of life or death. Even if 3 Great Witches join forces, they can't kill it. So, everything happened within 1 second. Flora absorbed all the magical life force that enveloped the Great Crow heart. The magic she used was not a sealing spell from the beginning, but a fusion, a deceitful magic. In that moment, Flora opened the door of dimensional magic. She saw a world like never before. Behind her, the black figure of a disaster bird appeared. Chapter 13:17. The low roar of the Great Crow. 1 second of time is so brief. For humans, it was just a blink of an eye, a moment so brief that it seemed imperceptible. But for Flora, who sealed the Great Crow, that 1 second felt as long as a lifetime. When the fresh blood, which was the life essence of the teacher and their disciples, gathered towards herself, Flora sensed that something was wrong. This was not like a seal spell, but more like a forbidden technique that required sacrificing a large number of lives to achieve. Why didn't she notice it earlier? With their power, it was impossible to truly seal the power of the Great Crow. It was a natural disaster monster of the legend ranked, an embodiment of calamity that had already destroyed numerous worlds. Even if they gathered the entire world's power, it would still be impossible to defeat this black calamitous crow. It was one of the incarnations of nightmares, a calamity that came with the scent of death in the world. Its heart cannot be sealed by Flora's teacher or disciples. So, what is this spell? Why did Great Crow's heart suddenly shatter and fly towards her? The forbidden magic that had already been activated was prepared specifically for this moment. She could even see countless droplets of blood dancing around her, and then all of them flowed into her heart in a single breath. In just 1 second, the ritual was complete. She contained the essence of the Great Crow heart, mixed with the blood of her teacher and all the witch disciples who studied with her teacher. No, it's not just that. There are other things mixed in, things that the Great Crow had just devoured and hadn't fully digested yet, the essence of the sentient beings of this world. Besides her, there were no other sentient beings left in God's domain. Great Crow, who sensed the smell of death engulfing the world, bestowed upon them an equal and definitive end, proclaiming the death of the entire world. Whether it be birds in the sky, fish in the ocean, lush green trees, or even the underground ecosystem, Great Crow destroyed them all, turning the whole world into a lifeless land. Are there still people alive? Yes, Flora could sense that 3 immensely powerful and terrifying forces were surrounding this god's domain, exerting immense pressure on Great Crow. It was them who shattered Great Crow's heart, and in collaboration with the forbidden technique prepared by teacher Flora, they blended Great Crow's heart essence with Flora's own body. Then, as if it was always within reach, the door that had been touched more than once was pushed open by Flora. With the complete fusion of heart essence and Flora, Great Crow sprouted black wings on Flora's back and positioned its own coordinates above her. This is the manifestation of being chosen. The thought processes of nightmare world creatures are beyond human comprehension. Despite falling into a trap set by humans and enduring the combined attacks of 3 great witches, even to the point where its heart was once shattered, for Great Crow, which doesn't understand the concept of life and death, these injuries were nothing at all. It fixed its heart, and it only took 1 second. However, Teacher Flora's forbidden spell worked at this time, allowing Flora to use the power of the Great Crow to open the door to the Dimension Witch's path. Actually, the plan is almost finished here. Even in the plan of the 3 great witches, they never really expected to catch the Great Crow, as this natural disaster monster is almost unbeatable. The plan proposed by Flora's teacher, which was unanimously approved by the 3 great witches, is to use the entire world as bait, briefly capture the Great Crow's heart, and use the power of the Great Crow to help Flora reach the legend ranked. Even if the plan fails, Flora will not be in danger, as the 3 great witches will protect her life and wait for the next appearance of the Great Crow. No one knows what happened during that 1 second of fusion time, why the Great Crow, who should have only overlapped with Flora for 1 second, didn't undo the fusion state. After the forbidden spell was cast, the 3 great witches in the void looked at each other with strange eyes. Strange, why hasn't the Great Crow flown away? Flora, did you succeed in advancing? If she succeeded, she should have declared herself as the Great Witch. Today is supposed to be the day when Dimension Witch Flora is born. 3 great witches, who have existed for thousands of years, surrounded the Great Crow. They all watched Flora in the Great Crow heart area. Why is it like this? Flora should have been more joyful than anyone else when she opened the long-awaited door. It was her goal that she had always pursued. Dream. Future. Hope. Once you become a great witch, you can truly be free and explore the stars, no longer bound by God's domain. This has always been her ideal pursuit. The vastness of the starry sky made her want to see more worlds, so she has been working hard until now. But why, now that this dream is about to come true, is she unable to hold back her tears? G.A. A cold and heartless cry echoed in her ear. It was the ominous low roar of the Great Crow. The natural disaster monster from Nightmare World chose Flora as its host after she opened the door, merging with her. Nobody knows why the Great Crow made this choice, even if it meant sacrificing the entire God's domain. Even with the help of 3 great witches, the most they could do was to allow the Great Crow's heart to merge with Flora for a second. No one expected that the Great Crow, who fused with Flora for the first time, would actively choose to take up residence inside Flora's body. Even Flora herself doesn't know the reason behind it. The Great Crow, who doesn't know what it means to be alive or dead, is a strange and eternal disaster that cannot be destroyed. It can be seen as one of the embodiments of Nightmare World's will. Flora, who is inhabited by the Great Crow, landed on the ground feeling lost and confused. She looked at the world ruins filled with devastation, her shoulders trembling slightly. Everything has been destroyed. The familiar world she knew, and the people she recognized, have all been completely ruined. As the sun sets, only the city inhabited by the witches remains with a few traces of civilization in God's domain. Everything else has been destroyed by the Great Crow. Ha! Ha ha ha! In that moment, in front of the 3 great witches, on the already destroyed world ruins, Flora laughed. So, this is how it is. I am Dusk Witch. Flora. Chapter 13:18. The curse begins. The announcement made by every witch when they enter the legend ranked holds special meaning. Dimension Witch is the path chosen by Flora for herself, her future ideal. However, that ideal became corrupted because of the Great Crow incident. In the world of destruction, it was not Dimension Witch Flora who was born, but Dusk Witch Flora. Neither righteous nor kind, she existed in the midst of chaos, like a shadow between light and darkness, like dusk. On that day, Flora grew up and lost everything, earning the title of Dusk Witch, also known as Flora. Congratulations, Flora. Dusk Witch Flora, it's a good name. From now on, you need to work hard, okay? The three great witches who had been waiting for this moment congratulated the newly awakened Dusk Witch. Despite some difficulties along the way, Witch God's domain finally welcomed a new great witch. It was a source of pride for the entire Witch God's domain. The birth of the previous great witch happened thousands of years ago. In the next 1,000 years, it was unlikely that anyone would possess the same exceptional talent as Flora. In order for Flora to advance, both her teacher and the three great witches were willing to do whatever it took to help her take the next step. Let me be silent. I know. I will fulfill the mission of a great witch. Advancing to the legend ranked of a great witch represented reaching the pinnacle of the witch god's domain pyramid. It also meant taking on the responsibilities that came with being a great witch. Flora understood all of this clearly. However, this was something that wasn't supposed to happen for hundreds of years. The fact that it was achieved through such a tragic and costly way was unexpected. Your teacher is an exceptional witch. The plan to capture Great Crow was proposed by her, and she will be remembered by history. Flora, all of this is worth it. Witch God's domain needs Great Witch to protect it, or else more humans will be sacrificed. Witches are not without natural enemies. After the three great witches left some comforting words, they departed from the destroyed homeland of Flora. Yes. I know, even witches have natural enemies. But, is it really worth it, teacher? Why, don't you believe me, isn't a 1 in 3 chance enough? Flora wandered through the ruins of the world after its destruction. The devastating power of Great Crow was absolute, coupled with Flora's forbidden magic. The whole world was beyond repair. No matter what kind of spell was used, it couldn't restore the world to its original state. This world, which is full of destruction, is destined to become Witch God's domain's history. After hundreds of years, the last generation of people born in this world, which are the seeds sent out by Teacher Flora, will probably be forgotten when they land and take root in other worlds of Witch God's domain. In the history of Witch God's domain, the last records left here will probably become the final battle site of the three great witches and the natural disaster monster Great Crow, marking the end of this world. However, there is one person who will not forget this place, who will not forget their hometown. Even if all creatures born on this land forget it, she is unable to forget or let go. Because this is where she grew up, where she learned, and where she became a witch. The ruins left after the destruction of this world are the cradle she will never forget, becoming an eternal legend with her. Even when she imagines confessing her love to her imaginary love interest, the beautiful landscapes she has seen countless times in the dimensional shuttle don't appear in her mind. She has been to the homeland of dragons, watching the white holy dragons flying in the sky, and the dragon grass covering the ground stretching to the end of the world. She walked across the unchanging icy land that had existed for thousands of years, and climbed the extremely high polar ice peaks, watching the enchanting dance of the snow and ice creatures. She ventured into the deepest depths of the abyss, immersing herself in the bottom of the great whirlpool, where it seemed like eternal darkness, with indescribable things passing by. Her childhood dream was to see a wider world and leave her footprints in those worlds, and she achieved it all. However, no matter how magnificent and magical the landscapes she encountered, the colors that remained eternal in her heart were still from here. This is what the world looks like after its death, in the ruins at dusk. This is her hometown, a small domain on the border of the witch god's domain, called Sula, after her teacher's family. Elder, this place is my hometown. Holding the lilies that her friend used to love, Flora, dressed in a bright red gown, took steps towards the faceless god. In her eyes, there was a hint of sadness, but more importantly, courage. Flora is a great witch born in the ruins at dusk, a twisted monster inhabited by the Great Crow. Even in the history of Witch God's domain, she was the only great witch who possessed the power of the dimensional shuttle without any limits. She was special, everyone believed so from a young age. Until the day of the world's destruction, she had always thought she could save the world. The teacher confidently told her that they had a final counterattack plan against the Great Crow. By infiltrating the Great Crow's body and sealing its heart, they could create a miracle and bring hope back to the world. Hope existed, but it belonged to only one person, not this world. Flora, who was loved by this world, including its master Sue, was willing to sacrifice herself for her. She was a flower born from despair and death, named after the Twilight, the Great Witch. She wielded the infinite power of calamity and had black wings that brought destruction to world after world, with an embodiment of nightmares residing within her. Born at the cost of the destruction of a world and countless lives, a mysterious witch. Did you see, Elder? Because of me, this world is destroyed and headed towards its end. I really love this world so much. But back then, I was so weak and powerless. I couldn't change anything. Walking on the ruins of a world that could be indirectly ended because of herself, Flora displayed a beauty that even the 12 nightmare sovereigns in the void found awe-inspiring. So, I think, if you have someone you love, you should wholeheartedly give your all in loving them. Never wait until you've lost them to regret. Flora looked at the faceless god before her with a serious gaze, quietly placing a hand on the cursed necklace around her own chest. The curse from the legendary Great Witch Kara from ancient times is unleashed. Activation phrase, I have no regrets. Chapter 13:19, The Witch Who Saves the World. For witches who yearn for love and have no other options, the cursed necklace of the Great Witch Kara is their last choice. Once used, it is certain death. No witch who activated Kara's curse necklace has lived more than 3 months. Kara's curse has an almost absolute compulsion effect, regardless of the other person's condition, even if they're not the same race. Essentially, it's not really cursing the other person, because the cursed object is actually the witch herself. Love me, please, this is the wish and obsession engraved in this necklace by the Great Witch Kara. When she made this necklace, she probably didn't think that in the long years to come, so many witches with similar experiences would die because of it. Maybe, for these witches, not getting love is sadder than death. After Flora held this necklace in her hands, she never thought she would need to use it one day. After receiving this necklace from the Great Witch, there would always be a young witch approaching Flora with a desperate look, as if they were about to die, offering their entire fortune to buy the right to use this cursed necklace. As a result, without exception, the necklace would always end up back in Flora's hands soon after. She carefully studied the curse within the necklace and discovered its binding power, which even a great witch of the same legend ranked couldn't resist. It was a kind of balance like forbidden magic, similar to the law of causality. To give my life and make someone I love fall in love with me. Regardless of race, background, or gender, the stronger the other person's power, the less time would be left after casting the curse. If targeting the legend ranked, indeed, such cases have occurred, it would be an incredibly exceptional witch, with extraordinarily outstanding magical talent. The person she fell in love with was a legend-ranked mage who had long been married. After using Kara's curse, she successfully gained 3 days with that mage, and then she died. This is the fair part of Kara curse, you have to sacrifice as much as you want to get. So, the Great Witch Kara, who created this necklace, didn't get the love she wanted because the person she loved was supposedly more powerful than her and couldn't be bound by this curse. After the user's death, Kara's curse is automatically lifted. Only the memories, lasting for a brief period of a few months or days, will not disappear. They are the final traces left by the witches who use Kara curse in this world. Flora clearly knows the consequences of using Kara curse, so she never thought of using this necklace herself. It's too foolish to use this method to obtain love, she will never use it in her lifetime. As for why she collects Kara's necklace and has conducted multiple experiments to offset the cost of the curse, that's just research, pure research. Being the host of Great Crow, she is one of the very few witches in the legend ranked who transcends the concept of death. So, Kara's curse until death won't truly kill her, but she will still be greatly affected. As a compromise, she used a special method, using her collected wealth to pay for the cost required by Kara curse. This strange method requires a huge amount of money. She worked hard to smuggle the wealth she collected for thousands of years, but it was never enough for this alternative death plan. With her current wealth, every time she uses Kara's curse, she loses 1/10 of her fortune. It's a number that can bankrupt a large god's domain. Flora never imagined that there would be a day when she would actually use this cursed necklace. The cost of using it is more extravagant than the highest reward of this Red Heart Queen's masquerade. It's like burning one mountain of gold and silver after another the moment it is activated. Senior. Am I beautiful today? She raised her hand and placed a white lily in the hand of the faceless god. Flora's heart had never been so excited. Very beautiful indeed. Yunshi's breath was becoming rapid. This is not a lie. Flora, standing before him right now, was emitting an especially captivating fragrance that he couldn't figure out why. That fragrance, even with just a gentle inhalation, was enough to intoxicate a person's soul. Even Yunshi couldn't resist its allure. If he wasn't hiding inside the faceless god, he might have lost control long ago. Why does Flora look so good today? Just a moment ago, it wasn't this exaggerated. It's just that he feels that this great witch has a special charm. Now, this charm has evolved from extraordinary to a state of intoxication. He can feel his uncontrollable heartbeat. Pafu. Pafu. Pafu, who is inside Dragon Jade, is also extremely excited. The scent is so wonderful, it can last for a whole year. The Golden Love perfume is such a powerful tool, the undefeated ace in the love war. So, Senior. Do you like me? Kara's curse is in effect, and Flora can clearly feel the atmosphere between herself and Yunshi becoming ambiguous. It's an unspoken understanding of everything, as if they have known each other intimately for a long time. Yes, Kara's curse is absolutely effective, even the legend-ranked can't avoid the consequences of the causal magic. While casting this curse, 1/10 of Flora's treasures in her dimension vault instantly turned to ash, which made Flora, who loved smuggling and wealth, very heartbroken. Yunshi was just about to say the word like, as if there was a special magic silently guiding him, making him almost blurt it out involuntarily. Boz. 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 The dragon's precious gem emitted a terrifying light. It possessed the ultimate power to grant Yunshi control over the faceless god, while also serving as a barrier protecting him from being tempted by certain poisonous insects. Well, to be more precise, the target is the others. The magic of the Great Witch Kara indeed transmitted to Yunshi, causing bias and interference in his destiny's laws. Unfortunately, the opponents she had to face were truly terrifying. And, what's even scarier is that even this opponent with the power of creation cannot control Starchild's destiny. If the legendary technique of cause and effect from the legend-ranked could accomplish this, a certain Starchild would not have been able to escape from the pursuit of his 4 former girlfriends and not get caught in the end. The bindings of the creation's cause and effect are 1,000 times stronger than the curse of a legend-ranked Great Witch. Cause and effect failed. Flora immediately sensed that something was not right about this situation. Would the curse of the Great Witch Kara also fail? How is that possible? In terms of binding curses, Great Witch Kara is one of the top witches in the witch god's domain, just like she is the first in dimensional magic, unbreakable. Why is it reflecting back? Flora panicked as she felt her heart beating irregularly, a symptom of being struck by Kara's curse. Bang! 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 Panic. Wander. Sweet. It's like a mixture of honey in a deadly poison. Kara's curse cannot be stopped once it is activated. She fell in love. More clearly than ever before, she could feel that she had fallen for the person in front of her, like a butterfly intoxicated in nectar. I can't describe how I feel, never felt so uneasy but also longing in my heart. Just like the elder said, a young girl in love. At this moment, race, social status, and even gender lost their meaning. Like, it's just liking someone, love, it's so magical and enchanting. She fell in love with the person in front of her. Love can't be stopped, overflowing sweetness constantly spreads from within her heart. That sweetness is a poison that can make someone willingly face death. Now Flora understands why some witches are willing to use Kara's curse at the cost of their lives, saying, I have no regrets. The witches who use Kara's curse are beyond saving. And she, right now, is in this state, truly falling in love with the person in front of her. Her cheeks turned red. Her heart was beating like a little deer jumping around. She was breathing quickly. Even though she had put on her best outfit, she had no confidence at all. Where did her usual pride and self-confidence go? Why is it that just standing here, she feels so awkward? Because she values the other person so much, even her speech becomes stuttered. Senior. Is there something wrong with me? This is unlike her at all, not even a bit. The love she yearned for was elegant, gentle, and a relationship where she takes the lead. I never thought about being proactive in my life and I don't need to. She is the powerful great witch, Dusk Witch Flora, who resides at the top of the witch god's domain. It's not true. Today, you are the most beautiful bride. Yunshi didn't know what happened to himself, but after smelling that pleasant fragrance, his head became a little dizzy. The laws of karma that bind souls have no effect on Starchild, not even the commands of his 4 ex-girlfriends from before creation. However, the strong temptation of the golden love perfume surprisingly had an effect, and with Flora being affected by the reflected Kara curse, both of them were in an obviously abnormal state. In a dazed and blurry state, both of them were so foolish that they couldn't distinguish whether this place was a stage or their own world. Senior. I like you. Flora's shoulders trembled lightly as she spoke, almost on the verge of tears. Ah. What a fool you are, Flora. Why did you say it first? The senior told you already, it's super disadvantageous to be the first one to confess in the love war. At the moment when Kara curse started, she was hoping for a confession, but why was it her who confessed? This is definitely not her fault, something went wrong with the timeline. Flora. Yunshi stared dumbfoundedly at the shy expression in front of him, truly showcasing the charm of a great witch. In terms of performance, Flora's expression at this moment is just too sincere, words cannot describe the affectionate look in her eyes. If it's possible. Yunshi also got into character. This is the answer from the prince, it must be like this answer is the correct one. In this world, there's no prince who would reject Flora's confession now, it won't happen. Oh, senior. Flora happily grabbed the hand of the faceless god, with an enchanted expression on her face. What's the deal with this fairy tale-like great witch? But she's really irresistible, and she smells so good too. Yunshi, who was feeling dizzy from the golden love perfume, couldn't help but accept Flora's confession. By the time he realized that something seemed off, it was already too late. Senior, let's plant trees together. As long as we sow enough seeds, this world will surely be filled with colors again. If we have enough world tree leaves, we can get a little closer to this goal. Flora spoke about her wish, which also served as the driving force behind smuggling countless prohibited items. She couldn't abandon her homeland, even though it had long been destroyed and disappeared into the history of the witch god's domain. But she still wanted to save this world. With every piece of World Tree leaf money she earns, she's one step closer to resurrecting this world. To bring back the completely dead world, which even the witch god's domain has never witnessed, is a miracle that Flora wants to accomplish. That's why she has such high demands for the future half of herself. At that time, she never forgot the promise to her teacher, not even for a second. Even though Dusk Witch was born from destruction and death, she desires to accomplish a miracle similar to creation, which seems impossible. Flora, you can save this world. That was a lie from her teacher. Yes, teacher, even if you are gone and even if this world is forgotten by everyone, I will save it. When this world is filled with life again, I will erect tombstones for you, so that the people who live in this world in the future will remember your names. It was a pact, the promise between Flora and the last witches of this world, as they launched their final attack towards the Great Crow. Flora, we will win. Flora, you are our hope. The task to save the world is now yours. Flora, if I unfortunately die in battle, I hope you will carry my coffin. This Great Crow is so big. I wonder what it tastes like when grilled. Flora, I have some hidden bread in my room. Let's eat it together when you come back. I envy you, Flora. The task of saving the world is entrusted to you. A promise is a promise. No matter if it's 1,000 years or 10,000 years, she will never forget. She herself is a witch who is going to save the world. Chapter 1320, The World of the Two. By coincidence, Yunshi agreed to plant trees together with Flora amidst the fragrance of golden love. If it's just planting trees, it shouldn't be very difficult, Yunshi thought so naturally. Sir. Thank you. Flora took Yunshi's hand and sent the lilies in her hand soaring into the sky. This bouquet of flowers is a memory of her past, for the friend who always loved snacks and played with her. At the same time, it symbolizes the hope preserved by this long-destroyed world. The white petals danced in the sky, one after another. Wherever the petals passed, the ruins remained ruins, but in the dense cracks, in the gray and white land, a hint of vitality quietly emerged. That was Flora's wish. The witch who saved the world, doing what she could for this world. Flora's wealth could easily buy God's domain, which was 10 times or even 100 times larger than her hometown. It is impossible for even the legend-ranked to revive a world destroyed by Great Crow. This is even more difficult than creating a small world. Perhaps, only the existence of the creator rank can achieve this. However, a creator rank wouldn't do this. Several known primordial beings in Endless God's domain, apart from the incarnation of Supreme Dragon God Asha, haven't appeared in public for a long time. Flora sought Asha's help, but even the Dusk Witch with the power of the dimensional shuttle could not make Dragon God Asha intervene. However, at least she received some guidance from His Majesty Dragon God Asha. To revive the world, cultivating a mature world tree would be the best method, not branches or saplings. You must remember that reviving a dead world is equivalent to distorting the rules of the world, and one must bear equal consequences. I don't recommend you to do so. As long as there is hope to revive the world, no matter how faint that hope may be, Flora is willing to do anything. After that, she used her dimensional shuttle to gradually obtain information about the Fairy Clan World Tree. How to take care of World Tree saplings, what to use to cultivate World Tree more effectively, a few myths and legends about World Tree, a simple beginner's guide to World Tree that even monkeys can learn. The more Flora understood the information about the World Tree that the fairies believed in, the more she realized how difficult it was to cultivate a mature World Tree. The resources required for this were an astronomical number, and many of them had long disappeared, leaving even the fairy clan helpless. The fairy clan in the Endless Gods domain only had one fully mature World Mother tree. Even with all her wealth combined, she couldn't afford to buy a sapling of the World Tree, which was just the initial investment compared to the massive resources needed for future cultivation. The Endless Gods domain has a long history, and several powerful forces with a good relationship with the fairy clan have tried to buy saplings of the World Tree, branches that are essentially split from the mature branches of the World Tree, to try and cultivate them. Among them, the 10 Leaves Alliance has made the most progress. It has spent millions of years and countless resources, but it is said that they have only managed to grow a few dozen leaves on the small sapling of the World Tree, and the next stage seems far away. No problem, as long as there is a goal, it must be achieved. Promise, we must fulfill it well. This is her promise to her teacher, Sue, and the other witches. And now, this promise has added another person. Finally, she is no longer alone in pursuing this unreachable goal. Senior, one day, this world will bloom with flowers again. Holding the hand of the faceless god tightly, even though his hands were cold, Flora still showed a gentle expression. Fingers entwined, hearts connected, this is Flora's happy time. The world became different from this moment. There is nothing scary anymore. In this vast world, she found someone to walk hand in hand with. Today, she is not lonely anymore. She is no longer alone. She feels like she can do anything. If that's the case, this world will surely be very beautiful. Yunshi had no idea how difficult planting trees was, as Flora said. He also didn't know how shining he was in Flora's eyes, like a morning star brightening the night sky. This beautiful world belongs to the predecessors and me, Flora proudly pointed at the still barren and lifeless land. This is her hometown, the cradle of the Dusk Witch. Even after 1,000 years, the last generation born here has long turned to dust. Their descendants don't even know the name of their homeland. But as long as Flora remembers, this world is not truly dead. True death is being forgotten, not even having anyone remember you while you're still alive, as if the world has abandoned you. The land that was destroyed by Great Crow a long time ago, even the slime doesn't have a piece of land because of a promise, an obsession, it is still alive, which is the best proof. When this land is full of flowers, I will, with the elder. Flora's small face turned red with excitement, stumbling to find the right word. Today is the first day of meeting the elder. Is it progressing too quickly to say marriage already? It seems that the prophecy of the dead snake has really come true, so there's no need to bother her anymore. Today is the best day. It's the time when she met the person she likes. Every minute and second spent with the elder is so happy. This kind of happiness is a dream moment she has never experienced before, although there are moments of unease and panic, but now she finally holds happiness in her hands. I look forward to that moment. Yunshi nodded, making the desolate land bloom with flowers once again. It will surely be a very beautiful scenery. Flora is actually a very good witch, you know. The two people holding hands stood in the center of the destroyed world, imagining the future scenery of this world from different perspectives. In Yunshi's eyes, this world belongs to Flora. It is a world that is filled with hope, even in times of despair. He is just a visitor here. In Flora's eyes, this was her and her world, a cradle of love. It was a misunderstanding, or perhaps not really a misunderstanding. This world quietly gained a hint of spring's breath. Chapter 13:21. Her scenery in the void. The 12 nightmare sovereigns watched Flora holding hands with Yunshi in the ruins, each one content. She did it. Indeed, Dusk Witch Flora performed so naturally and attentively. Even with so many talented newcomers today, she remains the most outstanding lady without a doubt. Appearance, demeanor, and expressing hope from despair so thoroughly. I give top marks. Similarly, it's a flawless performance. Absolutely impeccable. Nightmare Sovereign scoring was extremely strict, and never influenced by any external factors. Even the Golden Crow Princess, protected by the Queen Mother of the West, only had the privilege of choosing the performance order. The scoring itself remained unbiased. 9 points. In history, the first 9 out of 10 score appeared, representing Flora's performance just now reaching a level that even the Nightmare Sovereign found captivating. It was no longer a ladylike performance on the stage. Instead, it was as if Dusk Witch Flora was truly on the stage, professing love to the unfamiliar prince. Among all the participants on the ladylike stage, only she expressed such deep feelings without hesitation. The Nightmare Sovereign didn't dislike beautiful things, which is why they were willing to take on the role of judge at the Red Heart Queen's masquerade. However, what the Nightmare Sovereign considers beautiful differs somewhat from human standards. Showing hope in despair is a trait that the Nightmare Sovereign likes the most, and this trait embodied by Flora, who houses the Great Crow within her, was a perfect match, and was one of the main reasons why Flora is so welcomed at the Red Heart Queen's masquerade. The Great Crow itself holds a special status in the nightmare world, being the only fantasy species of nightmares. The essence of the Dusk Witch, housing the Great Crow, is a future Nightmare Sovereign. That unique constitution, blending the witch and Great Crow aura, is the only exception in the entire nightmare world. 9 out of 10. 8 points. 9 points. One high score after another was achieved, with the unprecedented 9 points appearing repeatedly, indicating that more than one Nightmare Sovereign believed that Flora's performance this time was close to perfect. After all 12 Nightmare Sovereigns completed their evaluations, a super high score that they believed might be unmatched in history appeared. This score was shocking, 89 points. Compared to other participant scores, this score stood out and was in a league of its own. Excluding the highest and lowest scores, this meant that Flora received 9 9-point scores and 1 8-point score, overwhelmingly dominating to become the well-deserved first-place winner of the Red Heart Queen's masquerade. Although I knew it would be a high score, I never expected it to be this high. Flora's performance was indeed outstanding, it even moved me. Today, Flora felt more radiant than ever before. Is it because of that outfit? She does look exceptionally beautiful. No, the outfit alone would only add about 5 or 6 points at most. What's more important is the emotions Flora showed today. If I didn't know that Prince was randomly chosen by Ada, I would have thought Flora was truly in love. After scoring, the 12 Nightmare Sovereigns continued to watch with great interest as Flora walked hand in hand with Yunshi among the ruins. This scene was a sight never seen in any previous Red Heart Queen's masquerade. In past Red Heart Queen's masquerades attended by Flora, she would be on stage showcasing her charms, standing alone in the center of the ruins while softly singing folk songs from her homeland, appearing lonely and forlorn. Although that was also a unique beauty that the Nightmare Sovereigns enjoyed, compared to today's performance, it paled in comparison. Although they originally felt that Ada's choice of a seemingly random prince for this Red Heart Queen's masquerade was somewhat unconventional, the Nightmare Sovereigns decided to include such a segment in future editions. Yes, that's right. From now on, the Red Heart Queen's masquerade will always have a prince. We also need to catch an unlucky sacred unicorn to play the role of the white horse. At this moment, Flora, who was immersed in bliss, had already forgotten that this was a stage performance. For her, the scores and final rewards were thrown to the side. Being here, now, walking with the seniors, and it's after a successful confession. This is the best reward in the world, even 100 portions of the legend-ranked food could not compare to such a happy ending. Seniors, this is the main road. It's the magical path built by us witches. Over there is the magical garden, where there are many strange plants. I once accidentally pulled out a radish, and the scream it made alerted the teachers. It turns out it was a kind of magic herb. Although it was a ruin, everything about this city was so familiar to Flora, as if the time she spent with everyone was just yesterday. She had never seen Flora's hometown in its original state, but from her cheerful voice, it must have been a peaceful, prosperous place that gave a great sense of happiness. Otherwise, Flora's eyes wouldn't be so joyful. Holding his hand made her feel like a lively deer, bouncing around in a spring field. Sue, who's always running around giving candy to strangers, is a very, very energetic child. She had strange-looking black fruit candies in her hands, but they tasted really great. She always said that when she becomes an excellent witch in the future, she will definitely study magic to make lots of candies. In the future, when this place is revitalized, I will build a special little shop just for her, called Sue's Candy Cottage. When talking about her past experiences with her friends, Flora's eyes looked particularly gentle. After experiencing thousands of years, Flora forgave everything. She forgave her selfish and stubborn teacher, forgave her companions who lied to her and hid the truth. They left her behind, leaving her all alone to guard this devastated world. They probably didn't expect that Flora not only didn't give up on this world, but also truly wanted to save it. Saving the world in crisis and saving the world after death were completely different challenges. But now Flora is confident that she can do it. The reason lies in her fingertips, where she gazes. It was the most beautiful scenery in the world, regardless of race, gender, or the one she loves. Chapter 13:22. Overwhelming advantage. As the light curtain slowly fell, a hint of vitality emerged in the ruins, and Flora's hometown disappeared from the stage. Flora left this noble lady's stage more reluctantly than anyone else. With a satisfied expression, she returned to her seat with her head held high. She had the right to be proud. Even without looking at the scores, she knew she must be the first place. Because this performance belonged to her stage, it was a miraculous moment between her and her predecessors. Humph, I told you so. How could my fortune-telling be wrong? Ouroboros gestured towards Flora, swiping from left to right. This represents a stroke to cancel out. From now on, the debt issue between Ouroboros and Flora no longer exists. Well. Flora nodded, showing satisfaction with Ouroboros' service this time. The only downside was, why did they have to wait until the last year of the 999th year of the 1,000 years? This Ouroboros' mysterious fortune-telling was really impatient. I have no choice. Fortune-telling is something that you won't know when it will come true until the last moment. Ouroboros shrugged, the full peaks underneath the thin inner robe swayed back and forth. As one of the top fortune-telling masters of the mysterious sect, Ouroboros may not know other things, but the skill of talking nonsense with eyes wide open is definitely full. Even so, she never did a fortune-telling for Dusk Witch Flora. Strange, why does it feel not quite right? Did you really do a fortune-telling for her? Cassina the battle god knew Ouroboros' character. If she really predicted this scene, why would she face Flora with a look of hanging trouble on her face? Of course, no matter how bad her personality is, she is still a great witch, so it's impossible for her not to find a lover. It's just that her standards are too high, and she has only now met the right person. Ouroboros confidently promised that Flora would meet her destined lover in due time. Not to mention the towering mountain peaks that even the rare demon dragon blood couldn't create, they can captivate countless people's hearts. Among the female deities of legend rank, only a few can match Flora in this aspect. Most of them are not even a match for Ouroboros, let alone Cassina the battle god. The fact that a certain multi-headed dragon would be hunted down by a large group of legend-ranked beings is simply destined. Who would have thought that this demon dragon's essence, among all known substances, is almost the only one that can help in the development of the female deities of legend ranked? 89 points. When the score given by the 12 Nightmare Sovereign's judges was announced, everyone's focus, except for the indifferent Lilibet, shifted to the confident Flora. Well, to be more precise, it was her chest. I envy your big chest, Flora. I'm sure mine will develop well as I grow up, said the Golden Crow Princess, looking at Flora with admiration, gesturing at her own small chest. It was the first time she felt a sense of inferiority. Even though the great sun crow can create the sun, it has no control over the size of its chest. The existence of beings in the legend ranked is related to human-like figures and certain rules of fate beyond their control. Mortals with large chests at the hero ranked level will also have large chests at the legend ranked. The transition is not sudden like the leap in power levels, but rather a distant evolution. The step from hero ranked to legend ranked is a shared transformation of soul and life, marking the first step towards eternity and immortality. The key is what your true self is in your soul, as it will not change much upon becoming legend ranked. In the Eastern Gods domain Buddhist terminology, it's the true self, the true form, the true body, unchanging in essence. Therefore, if you have a small chest before becoming legend ranked, it will remain the same after achieving that rank. The growth of life can make you more beautiful, with balanced features and even change the color of your hair, but the chest area will remain largely unchanged. Even if her body becomes 1,000 times, 10,000 times bigger, the proportion of her chest will still be as big as it should be. For example, the Golden Crow Princess is a divine fantasy species by birth, possessing legendary strength. But due to her young age, her chest battle power in this form is no match for Flora, who is far superior in that aspect. This is the first time the Golden Crow Princess realized that having a big chest gives privileges and can be unreasonable at times, just like in Flora's case. Despite having the protection of her mother, the Queen of the West, she still felt overwhelmed when faced with Flora's imposing chest. It must be an illusion. The Golden Crow Princess raised her tiny fist, confident in her innate divine nature as a fantasy species, the future great sun crow who will develop into an outstanding and perfect woman. Her chest will definitely grow quickly too. Analyze, target Flora, evaluate scores. The Cyber Elf Alpha's eyes were filled with a waterfall of data. Base score, 50 points. Chest bonus points, 15 points. The perfume bonus, 5 points. Perfect dress bonus, 5 points. Performance score, 14 points. Assessment, no errors, entered into the database. Cyber Elf Alpha was paying attention to the starry sky chessboard for the first time, analyzing every single point. Flora got 89 points for countless times, and finally came up with a very unfavorable result for herself. In terms of basic score, she was confident that she could match Flora. However, the bonuses that followed were just too dishonest. With full preparation, the score could still catch up with the bonuses from perfume and dress, but the other two were just impossible. The bonus score for the chest, which worth 15 points, was so brutally high that everyone here was far from overcome it. In this project, the character closest to Flora actually has the lowest score. Cyber Elf Alpha and the Golden Crow Princess could be considered at the bottom level of the pyramid. The performance score was 14 points, and even so, Flora, with her impeccable performance, showed everyone what a true confession is. Even Cyber Elf Alpha made a special copy for reference. Can't win. After analyzing every point Flora earned, Cyber Elf Alpha rarely showed a troubled expression. Following the chess master of the Starry Sky chessboard, this was the second battlefield where she didn't have a sure chance of winning. Search, chest area, enlarge. Chapter 1323, Alpha's new goal. The love for beauty is women's innate desire. Beauty itself is a kind of power, a kind of truth. Most powerful things are usually beautiful, this is a law in the universe. Enlarging breasts and losing weight are always topics that all women in the Endless Gods domain are interested in throughout their lives. For those of the legend ranked, losing weight is not a problem at all. They have countless ways to prevent themselves from gaining weight. Cyber Elf Alpha, since birth, has rarely eaten meat like fairies, only eating fruits is enough for her. When it comes to materials for enlarging breasts, Cyber Elf Alpha instantly retrieves tens of millions of results. These can be divided into two major categories. The first category consists of very affordable foods with almost no negative effects that anyone can get. Papaya, an evergreen small tree with smooth skin, slightly bitter fruit, low sugar content, rich fruit pulp flavor. It is mainly used as a fruit, and can also be used as a vegetable. It is said to have a slight effect on breast enlargement if eaten daily. Cantaloupe, a member of the sweet melon species, gourd family, oval or round-shaped fruit, crispy and sweet with high sugar content, fragrant smell and delicious taste, also has breast enlargement effect. Milk, an essential nutrient for development, indispensable breast enhancement food, recommended to be consumed from childhood. Similar recommendations include strawberries, muskmelon, a series of recommended foods that are loved by both commoners and noble princesses. Unfortunately, none of these foods have any effect on reaching the legend ranked, and those in the legend ranked cannot make their breasts bigger with these foods. Cyber Elf Alpha silently noted down this list and decided to make a small improvement to her diet. The second category is quite diverse, with various methods available. Black magic, grab a slime, then use a forbidden spell to merge it into your chest, and you will discover a whole new world. Sea serpent, eat many sea serpents, preferably those that can release white sticky fluid, the older and fiercer, the better. Curse to make your breasts bigger. White magic, peaceful dove transformation spell, grab a sacred peaceful dove, cast a spell to apply it to your chest, and you will immediately get a dove-sized enlargement effect. Why does this look so familiar? Eating, a rare creature living in lakes that can spit out white liquid, can help with growth, with minimal effects below the legend ranked. Blessing, applying a sacred blessing to your chest to make it bigger. Trickery, magic bra, gathers all the flesh around and squeezes the back and lower abdomen. Even if you're in A cup, you can become a C cup. Full silicone breast enhancer, with this, no need to fear having a small chest, they can be made to look bigger. New illusion technique, with a touch, your eyes and chest can appear much bigger, as long as you don't meet the other party, they won't notice. Well, women will go to great lengths just to make their chests bigger. From white magic to black magic, even necromancy modifications, there are similar methods aplenty, but none have any effect on the legend ranked. As for the deep sea black sea serpent and similar white species, if discovered once, they quickly become extinct. Attempts at artificial breeding have all failed. Cyber Elf Alpha searched all the available data and found many new dishes to add to their eating list. After excluding methods that only worked for regular people and had weak effects on hero-ranked individuals, they finally discovered a breast enlargement secret specifically for legendary female warriors, but only one lonely result remained. This was the ultimate solution to the problems faced by all female beings in the Endless Gods domain, from regular people to hero-ranked individuals, and even the legendary female warriors. There was nothing else like it. The fresh blood of the multi-headed dragon contained a special life-enhancing substance, a miraculous potion effective for all races. Every female who used it experienced a 100% increase in their chest size, including many female deities and even the one who slew the god, the Sky Sword. Due to its incredible and immediate effects, the multi-headed dragon had dominated the top of Endless Gods domain's reward lists for many years, with a vial of its blood often ignite a legendary war. The blood of the multi-headed dragon was priceless, no amount of money could buy it. In the few recorded battles against the multi-headed dragon, those who acquired its lifeblood usually used it immediately. One of the places where extra blood of the multi-headed dragon had been found was at the Red Heart Queen's Ball, a small quantity had been offered as a final prize. They say that during the Red Heart Queen's Ball, many female deities risked losing intelligence to the power of nightmares in order to seize the blood of the multi-headed dragon. A god-slaying sky sword eventually obtained the blood of the multi-headed dragon, angering over a dozen nightmare sovereigns and escaping from the venue. This is the world's final kindness to flat-chested women. Why did that demon dragon run away? I only need a small bottle, just one small bottle. Multi-headed dragon, stop running away. Come into everyone's bowls now. No one will harm you, just be obedient and provide the blood. Small breasts are an incurable condition, only the blood of the multi-headed dragon can save us. The genetics in our family are too despairing, we absolutely need demon dragon blood. In the CyberElf Alpha database, there are countless tales of young girls longing for the demon dragon's blood, which is the only divine medicine recognized by all women in the Endless Gods domain. To find and hunt down the powerful multi-headed dragon that once escaped from dozens of the legend-ranked fighters, the Dragon Blood Alliance was born in Endless Gods domain, the most widespread force with the highest number of female members. After millions of years, this alliance has cultivated dragon-attracting grass, combined various magical medicines into one body, and grown to become one of the strongest alliances in Endless Gods domain. Well, it's not surprising at all, as women's pursuit of beauty knows no limits, including CyberElf Alpha. Add new instructions, incorporate new algorithms, and calculate the areas where the multi-headed dragon could escape. CyberElf Alpha casually issued a new command to her planet's quantum computing units. The priority of this command ranks just below the highest priority set for enhancing the computing power of the planet's quantum computing units. Let us observe a moment of silence for a demon dragon currently in flight. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.